that there were way more than 3. It's just that the United States has now confirmed that there are 3 that were shot down, but we don't know just yet what more assets of the United States, how many more fighter jets actually went down.
So these are pictures, and we've made it into a 3-window, viewers, for you. First pictures you will see is of the death spiral. There you can see it, this plane, and we were talking to Tom Cooper a short while back, Poonam, and he was saying that it's because the engines were hit, apparently, that this has lost complete control and it's just spiraling downwards, falling to the ground.
Yeah.
And there you can see the ejected pilots. They've come out, isn't it?
Yes, there.
And there is one of the pilots that's in the back of the boot of the car. And he's sequestered there, and there was a whole ring of people around him saying that let's leave him alone and so forth, because there might have been the risk that someone might have actually harmed him. This news came up about 4 hours back.
Yes.
At that time, the MOD of Kuwait came out and confirmed this. Did they give us the reasons why this would have happened?
No reasons were given back then. The reasons that were given by all of the allies of the United States was that we will defend ourselves. If there are attack on our assets, on our soil from the United States in a bid to attack Iran, that's something that will be countered. This perhaps looks like one of those interceptions by the Kuwaiti side, which has led to those fighter jets going down, those fighter jets being hit in the first place, and then, of course, them coming spiraling down.
So, okay, more information coming in. Yes.
CENTCOM has in fact gone on to indicate that
during active combat that included attacks from Iranian aircraft, mind you, ballistic missiles and drones. So as we've been discussing, this is not just about UAVs. Ballistic missiles were indeed involved. There were also Iranian aircraft which were looking towards attacking these US F-15s. This is when they were down. The US Air Force fighter jets were mistakenly shot down then by Kuwaiti air defenses. This is the word coming in.
So are you saying that ballistic missiles were fired by the Iranians to target probably some areas in the Gulf,
yes,
and these planes were rallied to try and intercept those, and in that there is some confusion, and in that friendly fire this has happened? Is that, am I...
also involving Iranian aircraft. Now, have they been able to violate the airspace in Kuwait is also the other big question, because this is information that has in fact
been just shared.
And this is a confirmation that has been done by the US Central
What you're
Command.
being told, and let me just quickly break this down for you. This is news coming in from Aman Sharma, posted in our groups. He's saying 3 US F-15s involved in friendly fire incident in Kuwait. The pilots are safe. So at least we know that the pilots are safe, Poonam. Yes, all 6 ejected. Okay, so this is datelined Tampa, Florida. And it says 3 US F-15E Strike Eagles flying in support of Operation Epic Fury went down over Kuwait due to an apparent friendly fire incident. During active combat that included attacks from Iranian aircraft, ballistic missiles and drones, the US Air Force fighter jets were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. All 6 aircrew ejected safely have been safely recovered, are in stable condition. Kuwait has acknowledged this incident, and we are grateful for the efforts of the Kuwaiti Defense Forces and their support in this ongoing operation. The cause of the incident is under investigation, but they've just said it's friendly fire. Additional information will be released as it becomes available. So there are wheels within wheels here. So now we know there was some sort of a dogfight.
You know, you opened the show an hour ago when you were talking about Donald Trump and his claims during Operation Sindoor. This is exactly where this conflict is also revolving around. Where is the truth? What are the claims being made? What are the counter claims coming in now?
Poonam here. If you remember, Poonam, for the last 8 months after Operation Sindoor, Trump has been claiming that India lost the war because we lost aircraft.
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here in triumphalism. I'm not going to say that this is, karma, etc., etc. But fundamentally, would he extend that logic to what the Americans are doing? Would he now come out and say that, oh, because we lost 3 aircraft, we're on the losing side?
Given how temperamental and whimsical Donald Trump can be, I'm guessing that's not the stance that he would take. He would say, like they've come out and said, this is friendly fire, and they couldn't really do anything about it. In fact, they've also gone on to say we're thankful for the Kuwaiti defenses, that all of our pilots were taken in safely, and that at least our crew is safe. But the cost of this war is being borne by the United States. 3 of their jets have gone down, and that's a cost that they'll have to bear for a war that they clearly didn't go in thinking as to what the endgame really was. And that's something that the Trump administration will now have to look at as well. Unfortunately, Rahul, I'm completely out of time. I do have to take a quick break here on this edition, but our wall-to-wall coverage on this conflict in West Asia will continue. Do tune in and continue watching our coverage here on CNN News 18 as we get you those minute-by-minute updates.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here, because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
While
Iran has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kansha, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally polar opposite, and they have never changed their views for last about 45, 50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that it's going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a street that they can wish away. They will fight, they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans, and a lot of time people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran itself.
Yes,
So
I'm
let's
glad you said that.
Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your this thing on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince has said about a month back they will not allow their own airspace and ground to be attacked for Iran. But the fact of the matter is that he was the one who went urging, and Trump has said as much, that he came to me and telling this is going to be eventually a challenge. Because when the ballistic missile numbers, which in 2027 they were aiming to make to 8,000, that crosses, and the speed of missile crosses, there was no way Saudis could have protected themselves. So that is one, I think they want to change. The second, they want to change orientation was about the nuclear ambition. With 440 kgs of uranium lying with them for 60% enriched, it was just a matter of time, I think, in a couple of months. The process of integrating, process of weaponizing further takes time, but they would have had the capability to use nuclear weapons. So this was, I think, the Americans wanted, but look at it from the Iranian side. Iran is a sovereign nation. They wanted to have a weapon, nuclear weapons. When Pakistan, which is a terror state, known terror state, can have nuclear weapons and Americans can continue to engage with them, Israel can have in the region, why should not Iran have its own? So I think these were two polarized actions that are taking place, and both have their own mission, and therefore they are both legitimate to fight the war, even at the cost of regional conflict with a global implication. I guess that's how the world works. Not a good world, but yes.
Yeah, and
we
even when it comes to Iran's nuclear ambitions, we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and that's where the United States began playing a key role and almost now dictating to Iran on what it must do next. Hold on, gentlemen, I'll come back to you in just a bit. I want to quickly go across to Shivani. She's being joined by Tom. We need to break down the story, take you through the latest fact of this conflict could look like. Shivani, over to you.
Thanks a lot. We're focusing on that F-15 downing that has taken place in Kuwaiti airspace. And these are the visuals of at least one of those American pilots. He's sitting in the boot of a car, lying down. And we can easily identify, Tom, that this is the American uniform and the American airmen.
By his khaki uniform, for example, and G-suit and the survival gear tied to his belly, for example. This is clearly a U.S. Air Force airman.
But there would be two pilots, isn't it?
Yes, in an F-15E, there would be two of them. I haven't seen the video showing the boat of parachutes, so I don't know what happened to the second gentleman.
You can hold this mic as well, Tom,
Yes.
since I have my own. So the other pilot's whereabouts, we don't know.
We
We've
don't know.
only
Right
managed
now-
to really get information on one of the pilots. So one of the pilots is secure, and these must be the Kuwaiti people who must have intercepted
Yes.
this downed pilot, but they're going to take him to the US base now.
Probably to U.S. base or to the Kuwaiti police, Kuwaiti armed forces, and then to the U.S. base.
Yeah. How rare is it for an F-15 to be downed?
Quite rare. It is actually...
Has it happened?
It has happened. I'm currently counting in my head. It's some fourth or fifth loss, combat loss in total.
Okay.
Over 30
so it's
years.
Pretty rare. So it's pretty
Since 1991, yes. Pretty rare, yes.
This is that footage.
This
What
is the
can you make-
F-15.
What can you make of this footage?
Well, you can make that it's an F-15 by two fins. You can make it by the form of its, plan form of its wing. You can make it out by, if you look under the intakes, there are pods. These are targeting pods, navigation and targeting pods, which this is what you see then the video of bombs striking. This is usually taken by this pod under the aircraft. And you can see that the engines are burning.
What does that mean?
That probably the explosion was behind the aircraft, approximately here, causing damage to the engines. Probably removing one of the slabs. This is the stabilizers, because the right one is visible, the left one not. So this is why it lost control.
Yeah.
And then it fell into a flat spin. The crew ejected, and the rest you can
So
see.
explain to me, what kind of capabilities do you need to down an F-15?
Well, you need quite advanced, at least medium range, in this case probably, medium range Iranian surface-to-air missile, for example. And it needs to have quite a hefty warhead, some 25, 30 kilogram, because shooting down an F-15 is not entirely easy, because it has such sophisticated controls that it can fly without specific parts of the airframe.
So tell me a little bit, Tom, who could have done this? Could this have happened from Iranian airspace or territory, or could it have happened from Kuwaiti territory itself? Who could be behind this, and how? From where could it have happened?
There are two options. One is that this aircraft was probably involved in intercepting incoming Iranian UAVs, and then Kuwait shot him down.
Would the Kuwait do that?
It could happen. It could happen. Why? Because both the surface-to-air missiles and the aircraft have to have identification, friend or foe equipment, which is synchronized. If it's not synchronized, the Kuwaitis are not going.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to a very, very special edition of Take 3. We are calling it Take 3 XL here because we've got Tom Cooper in the midst along with Raul Shivshankar and Zaka Jacob, and this is quasi the war room because there's so much that's happening in this entire Gulf conflict and this fury in the Gulf that one is worried and wondering, has Trump bitten off more than he can chew? Is there propaganda, and where is the truth? Is it somewhere in between? Because the Israelis are claiming something, the Iranians are claiming something, but the facts lie elsewhere. So who's going to be able to look at the facts? Is this going to get over in 4 days, or is it going to carry on till 40? And in that case, who then seizes the advantage? The other part, of course, we'll try and understand, are we queuing up for a third world war? Because already positions are being taken. And even friends are firing off at friends, verbally and quite physically too. Let's start with that. Rahul Shivshankar, Zaka Jacob and Tom Cooper, good to have you with us. And I think you've been in the thick of things ever since you've decided to extend your stay here in India. How's it going for you? Have you ever covered war like this before? Let's start from there.
Well, in this fashion, certainly not. I would sit at home, check the messages from my contacts, check what is going on in social media, cross-check it and put it on my blog. But this time I'm a little bit hampered in this regard. So I'm here with you, and part of me is enjoying it, of course. The other part is worried about, especially civilian losses on both sides, you know. So it is always the same, you know. The wars are exciting to watch as long as one can watch them from the side, and not the least pleasant if one is taking part.
Absolutely. Zaka Jacob, this cause of collateral damage, civilians getting involved. Now all of that region has now been pulled in. Before we get into the nitty-gritties and understand that, this is going to put pressure on whom?
My view is the Iranians are doing this knowingly, because look at the targets that they are selecting, whether they are, you know, 5-star hotels. Obviously, American bases, American assets are being hit. Today, an Aramco oil field in Saudi Arabia was hit. What's the message that they're trying to send? They're trying to send a message that, look, we will basically drag the whole region in. This is not going to be restricted to just a U.S., Israel, and Iran war. That the entire region will pay the price for it. So this, I think, is a sign of someone who is desperate, who wants to, A, show a high-value hit. I think the Iranians are really, you know, looking for that high-value target that they can take down and show to their people that, look, this is revenge. Now, what that high-value target is, it could be an American naval destroyer, it could be, you've just heard reports about 3 F-15s being brought down.
They claim to have bombed even Netanyahu's office. The Prime Minister's office
I would take that with a sack of salt. I mean, I've been to Netanyahu's office. It's not an easy place to bomb. So yeah. So let's you know, keep that aside. The point is, they're looking for a high-value target. They brought down 3 F-15s, is what we're given to understand, and I think that in itself is a big thing. But look, the big picture is this: Trump, speaking to the New York Times, said he expects this war to conclude in 4 to 6 weeks. I think it'll end before that. And that is, there's just one simple reason for it. That Trump, who is the principal protagonist in this, right? Tomorrow, if America decides, that's it, they're done. They're done with Operation Epic Fury, Israel will have no choice but to stop. Yeah. The question is, what will then the Iranians do? The Iranians will also stop because they have a finite amount of military armaments and hardware to keep going, right? 2,000 missiles, 5,000 missiles, whatever it is, it's a finite number. So they will have to stop at some point. So it really boils down to President Trump. And President Trump, we know, does not have the propensity for getting entangled in long, drawn wars, foreign wars. His base doesn't like it. He's got the big political victory that he can show to his people. I've cut off the head of the snake. I've got Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Let's just get on with it. I mean, whoever is now the next president or the next leader of Iran, that's not something that Trump is particularly bothered about.
Right, there's already bickering happening. Now, you know, Rahul is there looking at all the updates in the news. Let's start with the first one. The F-16s. From there itself, does the variance happen? Suddenly has the cost of this entire fury, epic fury, have taken epic proportions for the Americans?
Look, first of all, let's put the spin aside. See, I have a problem. When you go to war, you're going to accept and expect losses. That happens.
Yeah.
I found it very strange when Operation Sindoor took place. And some people said, oh, we must have lost the war because there were talk that there were some Rafales that came down. We don't know what aircraft came down. Mr. Trump would stand up and say 6, 7, maybe 8, maybe 9. Some people were speculating. Every day, there was talk like that. It was loose talk, irresponsible talk, and it was a suggestion that losses equals defeat. You don't go into war if you're scared of losses. You will never go out of your bunker
Correct.
if you're scared that you're going to get hit. You'll never be a boxer if you can't take a punch. So let's put that aside. I'm really not interested in looking at that from that lens. What is interesting here is that this was supposed to be a war that was supposed to be over in a few days with a decapitation strike. The United States, and I'm not saying it, Trump said, we're going to flatten them out. In fact, just yesterday, he was saying that we have softened up the Iranians.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be on the table very soon, and we're going to have negotiations. Now, the Iranians have come out, Tom, and they've said nothing doing. We're not going to have negotiations. In fact, if you look at the people who are taking over, they're even more hardline than the existing bunch. So you have a situation now where the Americans have to countenance 3 or 4 things. Perhaps a longish conflict with a bigger time frame than they expected. Secondly, the fact that some of their allies are being hit, and they're going to worry a little bit because they've got into this on someone else's behalf. It's Israel and the US that are carrying out the action. They're getting collateral damage. There are a huge number of reports coming out of US consulates being attacked and shut down. In Kuwait, for example, the British said that they're going to help a little bit, and in Cyprus they take a hit. So clearly, the Iranians are using what is the equivalent of a drone, which is about a $40,000 munition, against these billions of dollars of Tomahawk cruise missiles and all of that. Now, I'm not saying that the Iranians are not being hit. It's very possible that Tehran, as we speak, is being reduced to what Berlin was reduced to in the Second World War. It could even be worse. You've seen the way Gaza was flattened out. You've seen many cities in Ukraine being flattened out. So that could very well happen to Tehran. The fact is, will that be enough to get the Guard, this bunch of clerics and their allies, to say, okay, enough? But I just want to talk about these pictures now with you, Tom, because these pictures are interesting. In the morning, there was a picture of one jet, and we talked about it. I tweeted something because the Ministry of Defense of Kuwait said there were several aircraft. Now, CENTCOM comes out and says there were 3 aircraft and 6 pilots that have been rescued. Thank goodness there was no loss of life there. But it was friendly fire during an active combat where there were Iranian jets that came in and also drones. What is going on?
It is one of the ironic
See, this is the
situations
statement.
in this
You
war.
can read the statement
I read it.
and then break it down for us, because this is
okay,
issue that Tampa.
let's go sentence by sentence almost. During active combat, it included attacks from Iranian aircraft, which is absolutely because one would say, Israelis are claiming we have absolute dominance and whatever in the sky over Iran, and now all of a sudden we hear Iranian aircraft over Kuwait. And the US Air Force fighter jets were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. Okay, so mistakenly shot down, there is no friendly fire. The pilots always say this is blue on blue, because whoever is shooting at you is not friendly, friend or not. Obviously, as said, they didn't synchronize their operations with the Kuwaitis. They haven't adjusted their IFF systems. That means the Kuwaitis didn't recognize them as American, have opened fire at the best targets. These were the 3 or probably 4 F-15s, and they have shot 3 of these down. While considering there are no reports in this regard, Iranians came away. So this is what can be deducted from this.
So are you saying that the Iranians came in and then they went back, because there's no talk about Iranian kills?
Yeah, exactly.
But then how can that be possible when the Israelis are
And this is
constantly
all on
saying,
Kuwaiti airspace, which the Americans are supposed to be watching very carefully.
Yeah, not only the Americans, the Kuwaitis as well.
I take that with a pinch of salt.
Sorry.
From whatever we've heard from the American side, the Israeli side, they had complete air dominance by Sunday, which is yesterday. The Israeli air defenses were battered out. They could pretty much go in and do what they wanted to do. I would find it very surprising if there are Iranian aircraft in Kuwaiti airspace.
This is a CENTCOM statement. I mean, this is the Americans admitting.
Aircraft could be unmanned aerial vehicles too. I don't think
No,
it's
they've said
necessarily-
Iranian aircraft.
But what are the aircraft?
And drones.
I mean,
and drones.
They said,
what known?
see, they have said attacks from Iranian aircraft,
but what
ballistic
known-
missiles and drones.
It's
So
possible
clearly.
it's ballistic missiles and drones. We know Iranians have that. But what fighter jets do the Iranian Air Force have?
They have the F4, F5s.
F5s.
Yeah, but I don't see them being able to go to the skies post Sunday, sometime in the day, where the Israelis and the Americans have said that they've established air superiority over Iranian airspace.
If you permit me, I do not want to counter you or something or correct you. The fact is this: we shouldn't fall for the illusion that Israelis are now and the Americans exercising absolute 100%, 1000% control over the Iranian airspace.
But how have they neutralized the air defenses of the Iranians?
I would like to see evidence that they have neutralized this air defenses.
Unless they have, how are they able to carry out all of these multiple strikes?
That is
it's not just the strikes that happened on Saturday that took out Khamenei.
It is very easy to
they've been striking for the better part of the last 48 hours.
Let's listen to the military expert.
This is very easy to explain. They are striking with long-range weaponry. Weaponry like spies, like what is around there?
Hammer, no.
No, Rampage. This is all 200, 300 kilometers. I'm talking about air-launched weaponry. Tomahawk is sea-launched, so let's keep it now out of the story, because how are they capable of striking targets by their aircraft, whether from inside or, let's say, from fringes of the Iranian airspace? That is the point. So, and then they launch, they approach, they enter Iranian airspace, so 50, perhaps 100 kilometers, launch this weapon which can fly 300 kilometers far, and then on basis of that they claim they have total aerial superiority. While what is crucial here, and we should never forget from this moment on, the IGC is now obviously back in control mode. That means we can gauge this from these attacks on Cyprus, on Incirlik, and such facilities, oil refineries. That means nowadays these are not single exceptions like yesterday. And this means that they are now actually in guerrilla mode. They are now hiding, they are nowhere around, nowhere to be seen, well hidden, and coming out only to act. And any guerrilla that is still alive is winning. It is as simple as that. This is the experience number 1 to 1,000.
It's the same sentiment that's come from the Ayatollah Arafi. Now, this is what he's saying. This is the interim leader who's been appointed. He's saying victory is with the Iranian nation. Iran's current resistance against the American Zionist enemy is being carried out with the design of martyr Khamenei. And they've also targeted a 6th ship in the Strait of Hormuz, saying that no type of ship has the right to pass through Strait Hormuz.
Here's the thing. The only real leverage the Iranians have is being able to shut off the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
That will affect, it will affect India, it will affect China.
Yes.
That's really the only leverage that they have. Now, this whole thing about the statement from the new leader, he's one of 3. They're part of an expert group of 3 leaders who will govern in an interim fashion. Ayatollah Arafi. Right, he's not the next leader of Iran. The next leader of Iran will be decided by the Assembly of Experts. So look, the point I'm making is simply this, that all of this is bluster, right? If they're seeking revenge, which they've avowedly done, which is their stated objective now, their leader, a man who's ruled that country for the last almost 40 years, has been taken out. The only revenge for that is either taking out Bibi Netanyahu or taking out Donald Trump. They can't do that. A bunch of F-15s going down over Kuwait is not revenge.
That's not revenge.
And simply the Iranians don't have the capability to take out either of these two leaders.
That's not revenge. The question that's being asked is, 3 F-15s have downed at a time when
you think the Americans care? You think they care?
Trump
you think Trump gives... Exactly. He doesn't give a damn. The point is simply this. He's got the biggest prize. This is his legacy. When Donald Trump demits office in 2028, this is what will be written against his name. He's the guy who took out Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Just like with Barack Obama, it will always be remembered he's the man who took out, or the president who took out.
But the question is...
Netanyahu too, absolutely.
But the question is to what effect? See, the Al-Qaeda, for example, yes, you took out Bin Laden, but Bin Laden was in retirement by then. He was sitting and watching pornography in a room in Pakistan. Let's be absolutely factual about that. Other people had taken over the organization. This is a hydra-headed monster. You can chop off 6 heads. Yes, you can have the trophies on your mantelpiece and say, look, I got this guy. But the fact is there are others stepping in. Those lives are also dispensable.
No, look at this. They've also now got a defense minister in place. Majid bin al-Rasha has now already come in as a defense minister. Despite that entire leadership being wiped out, they've got somebody who's come in and taken control. And that's why, like you said, their command now seems to be centralized again. And it's coordinated. When an Iran is working like this, then that means that this is going to get dragged down. The cost of war is going to increase along with the cost of oil per barrel. It's increasing by the hour. If not, in some time, it will start increasing by the minute. And that is something the world will look at. If you see Turkey, China, Russia, Pakistan. Okay, Pakistan is like in Hindi mein kehte na bin pendi ka lota. It's got no side, it's got no back because it's got a security arrangement Saudi Arabia and it's supporting Iran and offering its bases to the Americans. So they are okay. They are a doormat. Everybody steps on them. But these nations are already coming in towards one group.
The problem I feel for, and please, I would like you to hold forth on this.
Just go on,
I think
please.
the problem for Iran might be that they might run out of munitions. Is that a possibility? And
yes,
where
no.
will they? Okay, that.
He has a take on that.
Okay,
on the
please
oil
tell
balance,
us. Tell us.
The point is this. As long as they can shoot at least one missile a day at Israel, again, this is guerrilla. They are now in guerrilla mode. And as long as they can shoot at least one missile at Israel, or one UAV at United
Dubai
Arab
or whatever.
Emirates, yes, Bahrain, Kuwait, whoever, Saudi Arabia, they are in the game, just like Houthis. Look the same. And the Israelis are of the kind who cannot resist. They must revenge immediately. They are going to strike. So the war is going to go on. The issue is, however, the Iranians can literally do it yourself, make the missiles, just like Houthis are often doing with parts that have been smuggled over Oman to them in Yemen. And then you have this one missile with 2,000 kilometers range, falls apart while actually over Riyadh, while still flying in the direction of Israel, but it is a threat. You cannot ignore it. Strike with F-16s, F-15s, tank aircraft, electronic supports, plus search and rescue measures and whatever else. It costs a fortune. Plus, what it costs them to intercept this missile if it comes down. So
And look at what we're seeing. Satellite images show damage at U.S. 5th Fleet Naval Base in Bahrain's Manama.
Yeah.
See the before and after pictures. And you can see these pictures here. I'm trying to sort of get them out so we can try and project them. But there are signs that this is not exactly one way.
No, not just one way. The point is two bases are gone. The Bahrain base is damaged. The other base in UAE has also suffered serious damage. That means there is no replenishment for the Americans.
So look, Anand, it's a very simple, it boils down to, for the Americans, it boils down to body bags. If there are too many American soldiers who are dead and being brought back to the US, that's when pressure will come to bear.
Otherwise, it's not going
Otherwise,
to
there is no pressure that's
My
going to be brought to
concern
bear.
is larger. Tom, I'm just saying, if this drags on for more than a week and beyond a week, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, will somebody somewhere snap and go too far up the escalation ladder? Will there be a quasi-nuke threat that then emerges, especially when nations start taking positions? Already Trump is barraging the Brits, saying, how can you allow whatever is happening with Diego Garcia and not allowing us, and you didn't guard the Cyprus airbase. Why did you not do it? So,
because you have asked if somebody is going to snap. If we gauge them by performance during the war with Iraq in the 1980s, Iranians are not going to be the first to snap, or at least not going to snap for the next 80 years.
they are not.
They are like that. And Israel is not going to stop. Even if there is a ceasefire, we've seen Israel violating every single ceasefire, no matter with him, for decades already. In 1973, they have violated.
So you see this dragging on?
So actually, this is going to go on in one form or the other. The question is just how many others are going to remain involved or not.
So now, if this gets, if this starts going, let's look at another part. For us, it's going to start hurting, when not just India, but a lot of this region, because oil has jumped in the last 15 days from $60 to $62 per barrel to today, it's nearly touching $87 per barrel. Look at that jump.
It hasn't been at 100 or 120 in about 4 years.
Yeah, when the Russia-Ukraine war
Russia-Ukraine war
began.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And let me tell you that, again, Tehran Times is reporting that we're going to have no negotiations with the U.S. top security officials. So they're digging their heels in. And the Strait of Hormuz is shut completely. That's the other update that has come through. So the pain factor will increase. And let me tell you, it's not as if both Netanyahu and Trump, and you were there in Israel, that Netanyahu is the most popular guy around.
No, he's not.
And of course, I was asking a couple of MPs right now, and they said there is bipartisan support for this and so on and so forth, because as you were saying, people will look at this and say, look, at least we've knocked out the head of the the Hydra or whatever it is. But fundamentally, in America, it's a different ballgame altogether. Already there are noises coming from the opposition that no clearances were sought from Congress and so on and so forth. So obviously the appetite there, and it's a democracy.
No,
so
and Trump is really under the pump because of all the other factors that have been weighing in on him, on the Epstein files, all the other, I mean, he's just lost
Is
a
there
lot
truth
of
to all of
seats
this?
in the election.
There's huge chatter on social media. I want to ask you, gents, and it's been there in my head. They say that the time the Epstein files happened, and Bill Gates apologized. There are 2-3 things which are being spoken about. Pakistan invades Afghanistan or attacks Afghanistan, and then Trump goes out because suddenly Epstein is not being spoken about, or Epstein files are not.
Look, I think these are disparate.
Prince Andrew gets out. All of that.
I don't think they are necessarily connected. I think as far as the Iran operation is concerned, for the last 2 months they've been building up. Trump has called it the Armada. From January onwards, ever since the Maduro operation got over, they've been moving their assets in some form or the other to Iran. So this was very much on expected lines, which is why it's so surprising to me that for the last 2 months, the entire world and their uncles have been talking about America, Israel, joint operation, taking out the Iranian leadership. All 50 of them were in one building.
Yeah.
I mean, what sort of intelligence do you have that the top guys are all in one building in broad daylight? So I think, look, I'm very, very clear about this. Trump wants a quick victory. He already has the biggest prize that he would have hoped for, which is, like I keep saying, the head of the snake. That's done. Now the question is, what will it take for the Iranians to stop? He has to offer the Iranians an off-ramp.
Here's the
What
thing.
is that off-ramp?
But here's the thing: is Trump okay with Khamenei dead but not solving the problem?
He doesn't care. What do you think happened in Venezuela?
He doesn't
can't care less.
Exactly, he couldn't
Absolutely
care less.
not.
He doesn't care.
He says one thing in the morning, 5 minutes later he cannot recall that he has said that and says something entirely different. He's so careless.
So more breaking news coming in. Iranian
Yeah.
Security Chief Ali Larijani has denied that he reached out to Washington via Oman. So you were talking about Trump lying or what have you, because a few days ago Trump said, on Sunday, that is yesterday, that Iran's interim leaders were willing to enter ceasefire talks and reveal operations there had been designed to last 4 weeks or a shorter time if Tehran came to the table to agree on a nuclear weapon deal. I was hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that even the United States has a limited stockpile of weapons right now in this
very
area.
much.
So can you talk a little bit about
Not
that?
only in this area. 2 weeks ago, the Joint Chiefs of Staff have briefed Trump on the coming operation, and they have told him, listen, we have enough for 7 or 8 days of war.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Overall, that's it, because there is shortage of interceptors already from the last year. They have spent so many surface-to-air missiles in order to shut down so many Iranian ballistic missiles in June last year. So they couldn't rebuild these stocks in a matter of less than within 8 months, because the production rates are too low. The production rates are too low because everybody in the West was sitting and waiting for 4 years to see what's going to happen in Ukraine, and everybody is expecting this is going to be over.
But it's not over.
Further to what Trump has said, I think yesterday he spoke to the New York Times and to Wall Street Journal. Today he's spoken to the Daily Telegraph, the London paper, and he said, we always estimated for 4 weeks, but we also anticipated it could end in 2 to 3 weeks. We've taken out some of the leadership on day 1, so that was well ahead of schedule. So I think this will end well before 4 weeks.
You think this will end well before 4 weeks? But somewhere the Iranians seem to have dug in their heels and saying, unless you take us all out, till the last person standing, the last drone, the last ballistic missile, and the last IRGC person standing, we're going to continue to fight. Now, and the longer this drags on, the more they will start gaining momentum, because the Chinese will recalibrate, the Russians will recalibrate, support will start recalibrating.
But none of them are supporting the Iranians. Why are they not supporting the Iranians? I mean, they've just taken out the supreme leader. How have the Chinese and the Russians... I mean, President Putin spoke to a bunch of world leaders, but what military support are the Russians giving?
Russians are not going to provide. They are not providing any kind of military support to Iran. They're not going to change that anytime soon.
They have their own war.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Even if they would have the weaponry, they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it because they got their own war to fight.
Their weaponry is now so busy, they are not delivering S-400s to India, which you have ordered in 2018, because they don't have them, because they need them on their own. So why should they start now selling them to Iran?
Trump is having a bit of a hissy fit. He's saying he's very disappointed with the UK, the closest ally, brothers. saying that you're not allowing us Diego Garcia. Why does he want Diego Garcia to be in play?
Because it's a crucial air base in the central, okay, not entirely central Indian Ocean, constructed especially for US bombers and tank aircraft. Diego Garcia is granting them freedom of operation. That means they can, right now they are foremost attacking Iran from the west, which means that the Iranians can also arrange their air defenses accordingly, hidden or not.
Yeah.
They are not powering their radars up, so the other side gets the impression, oh, there is nothing left, we have destroyed everything. But actually they are hiding, and just waiting for their moment until somebody appears, then pop one missile, perhaps they are going to hit, perhaps not. But just think of it. One US or Israeli aircraft shot down over Iran, and one pilot captured. This is a major coup. Should that happen, for example?
Should that happen? That's
this is the way they are thinking.
And that's the reason why largely they have not entered the Iranian airspace. They've just come right up there and fired their missiles or bombed in a way that's where.
So, for example, the missile that took... Okay, you're...
No, make a point, then we're going to wind
The missile that took out Khamenei, it's called the Black Sparrow. It's an Israeli missile. Was fired from 200 kilometers away.
Yeah.
So it's well outside of...
Yeah, well outside.
Probably longer.
Probably longer.
That's exactly what we've been saying all along, that they don't want boots on ground. They don't want anything to capture. No. More importantly, they don't want a hostage situation that gives the Iranians any inch to be able to try and wiggle out of a position where they want to corner them. But is that going to happen? Will the Iranians give up without a fight? We'll have to wait and watch. But for the moment now, we're going to call it a pause here on the Take 3 XL. But this is going to keep coming till the time this fury in the Gulf rages on. Thank you, gents. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here, because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
So look, while
and Iran has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kansha, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally polar opposite, and they have never changed their views for the last about 45-50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that it's going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a street that they can wish away. They will fight, they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans, and a lot of time people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran itself.
Yes,
so
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince has said about a month back they will not allow their own airspace and ground to be attacked for Iran, but the fact of the matter is that he was the one who went urging, and Trump has said as much, that he came to me and telling this is going to be eventually a challenge. Because when the ballistic missile numbers, which in 2027 they were aiming to make to 8,000, that crosses, and the speed of missile crosses, there was no way Saudis could have protected themselves. So that is one, I think they want to change. The second, they want to change orientation was about the nuclear ambition with 440 kgs of uranium lying with them for 60% enriched. It was just matter of time, I think, in a couple of months, right? The process of integrating, process of weaponizing further takes time, but they would have had the capability to use nuclear weapons. So this was, I think, the Americans wanted, but look at it from the Iranian side. Iran is a sovereign nation. They wanted to have a weapon, nuclear weapons. When Pakistan, which is a terrorist state, known terrorist state, can have nuclear weapons and Americans can continue to engage with them, Israel can have in the region, why should not Iran have its own? So I think these were two polarized actions that are taking place, and both have their own mission, and therefore they are both legitimate to fight the war, even at the cost of regional conflict with a global implication. I guess that's how the world works. Not a good world, but yes.
Yeah, and even when it comes to Iran's nuclear ambitions, we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and that's where the United States began playing a key role and almost now dictating to Iran on what it must do next. Hold on, gentlemen, I'll come back to you in just a bit. I want to quickly go across to Shivani. She's being joined by Tom. We need to break down the story, take you through the latest visuals coming in, and also an overview, an analysis of what the impact of this conflict could look like. Shivani, over to you.
Thanks a lot. We're focusing on that F-15 downing that has taken place in Kuwaiti airspace. And these are the visuals of at least one of those American pilots. He's sitting in the boot of a car, lying down. And we can easily identify, Tom, that this is the American uniform and the American airmen.
By his khaki uniform, for example, and G-suit and the survival gear tied to his belly, for example. This is clearly a U.S. Air Force airman.
But it would be two pilots, isn't it?
Yes, in an F-15E, there would be two of them. I haven't seen the video showing both of parachutes, so I don't know what happened to the second gentleman.
You can hold this mic as well, Tom,
Yes.
since I have my own. So the other pilot's whereabouts, we don't know.
We don't know.
We've only managed to really get information on one of the pilots. So one of the pilots is secure, and these must be the Kuwaiti people who must have intercepted this downed pilot, but they're going to take him to the US base now.
Probably to the US base or to the Kuwaiti police, Kuwaiti armed forces, and then to the US base.
Yeah. How rare is it for an F-15 to be downed?
Quite rare. It is actually...
Has it happened?
It has happened. I'm currently counting in my head. It's some 4th or 5th combat loss in total.
Okay.
Over 30
so it's
years.
Pretty rare. So it's pretty
Since 1991, yes. Pretty rare, yes.
This is that footage.
This is the F-15.
What can you make of this footage?
Well, you can make that it's an F-15 by two fins. You can make it by the form of its plan form of its wing. You can make it out by, if you look under the intakes, there are pods. These are targeting pods, navigation and targeting pods, which this is what you see then the video of bombs striking. This is usually taken by this pod under the aircraft. And you can see that the engines are burning.
What does that mean?
That probably the explosion was behind the aircraft, approximately here, causing damage to the engines. Probably removing one of the slabs. This is the stabilizers, because the right one is visible, the left one not. So this is why it lost control.
Yeah.
And then it fell into a flat spin. The crew ejected, and the rest you can see.
So explain to me, what kind of capabilities do you need to down an F-15?
Well, you need quite advanced, at least medium range in this case, probably medium range Iranian surface-to-air missile, for example. And it needs to have quite a hefty warhead, some 25-30 kilogram, because shooting down an F-15 is not entirely easy, because it has such sophisticated controls that it can fly without specific parts of the airframe.
So tell me a little bit, Tom.
thank you so much for staying with us here on CNN News 18. You're watching our continuous coverage on the developments that are taking place in West Asia. Both the Iranian side and the Israeli-American side are claiming to have attacked each other's assets. What really is the truth? What is hyperbole? We'll try and sift through that and get you more details. India, of course, is watching closely as well. In fact, we have information that's now trickling in via our sources within the Indian intelligence agencies, and they are now suggesting that Iran's escalation in the Gulf is not an impulsive one. It's a calculated existential gamble. What we're learning is now that the Strait of Hormuz is being used by Iran as a strategic leverage to inflict global oil pain. Especially what they want to do is they want to force Washington to reconsider this pressure, all of which will be driven by oil, all of which will be driven by choking the Strait of Hormuz, and that's something that Iran is choosing to do at the moment. My colleague Anand Narasimhan now joins us, getting us more details on this. Anand, Indian intelligence agencies are also keeping a close watch as to what's transpiring and what the next course of action will be for us. What more are you gathering?
Well, Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details, Poonam, and to our viewers, good evening. What their assessment is that this is more an existential ploy. It is deliberate that they are doing it, and I think many entities would have already gamed Iran trying to do something to ensure that there is no traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Because right now, China buys 80 to 90% of Iran's exported oil via shadow fleet tankers that continue moving even now. So Iran is going to ensure, and it also has a pipeline all the way up to Chabahar. So it will continue to supply to the world. There are experts who believe that it has already extracted billions of barrels of oil and kept a stockpile elsewhere away from the war zone, from where it can sell it to the highest bidder or at market rates, current market rates, and continue to raise fund and fund this war for the next 60 days, if not more. But more importantly, Indian intelligence agencies believe that China is operating in the shadows. It is actually injecting billions that fund the IRGC missiles, drones and proxies, and Chinese refineries and dual-use tech transfers like missile components, navigation systems, and Krink Alliance logistics allow Tehran to absorb short-term export losses. So in terms of cutting down their funds and cutting down the way they can actually fund this war, and to dry their coffers, that's not going to happen anytime soon. And Indian agencies are saying that without Beijing's economic and technical backing, Iran cannot sustain this high-stakes Hormuz play. So unless China is moved out of the equation, or China is pinched economically or in terms of energy resources, there will not be anything that is going to stop Iran from trying to block the Strait of Hormuz. And the reality is that the deeper end of the Strait of Hormuz flies closer to Iran. And that's why they can continue to try and take out ships or tankers which are trying to make their way into the Persian Gulf, into some of the other Gulf nations. So it's the 6th ship that they have targeted. And they're saying that China's take, where 50% of its own oil imports via Hormuz gives Tehran advantage, that Beijing is quietly shielding the regime. So unless this is nipped by the Americans, who may have gamed it, who may not have gamed it, but they will have to ensure that China hurts and Iran is not able to supply its oil to anybody, including China.
Right.
Till then, this is not going to end any soon.
Right, Anand, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. India, of course, keeping a close watch as to what transpires. There is going to be some amount of hit as far as supply chains of oil, of crude, of LPG is concerned. That's something that India is wary of as well, and keeping all of that in mind. But even as we speak of what the Indian agencies are doing or wanting to do, there are fresh inputs coming in of attacks that are taking place from both sides. In fact, the latest one is that there is carpet bombing as far as the capital of Iran, Tehran, is concerned. We're seeing bombs go off in multiple parts of Tehran, in the capital city. These visuals that you see on your screens there, it's an entire array of explosions that you see, black smoke billowing out of the skyline of Tehran. That's the latest that is coming in, and this is something, these visuals, this video is something that has been released by the Iranian media themselves, going on to show the kind of onslaught that the Israeli side or the American side is unleashing on Iran as the two sides continue to strike each other's assets, also strike the assets of their allies, especially in case of Iran, where not only are they targeting Israel, but they're also targeting several assets of the United States in that Gulf region. My colleague Sanjay Suri now joins us, getting us more details on this. Sanjay, both sides there is no let-up as far as the fighting goes. Strikes have been conducted both in Iran, as the Tehran media is also putting out.
Well, certainly it is a fight from both sides, which is not quite what Israel and the US had been expecting. They had expected to launch a smothering attack that completely erases the capacity of Iran to hit back, that it destroys their leadership, it destroys their will. And Trump said so in so many words while announcing the attack, that this is really a threat, a taste of more to come. And seeing this and experiencing this, they want a surrender. That has not happened, and it's not looking like happening anytime soon. Iran is keeping up quite a missile barrage going. We've seen it hit Israel itself. We've seen it hit the Gulf region, which is along the lines of the warnings that it had delivered. And so far, the attacks have been continuing. And we just saw very recently in Beersheba, very close to Tel Aviv, where a missile got through. It passed the air defenses. So this is a relative success for Iran, given what was believed to be its capacity or incapacity to launch a significant attack. It's now really going to be a matter of numbers. Who runs out of missiles first? Will it be Iran? Will it be the US and Israel? There is a limit to both, and that limit was tested and exposed in the June war of last year. It's a question of who has more tenacity, who has more supplies, and there is a further question whether the Iranians are holding back on some of their missiles, or whether a lot of those have been destroyed in attacks carried out by Israel and the US. Now that is a question that only the next few days will answer.
Absolutely, there is no let-up, both sides digging in their heels, and this is not something that the United States expected. Sanjay, do stay on with us because we have more information that's now trickling in, developments taking place in a fast-paced manner in Iran, where the Iranian president has now appointed the IRGC general as the acting defense minister. The predecessor or the defense minister before this was killed, remember, in the Israeli-US strikes. So now there is a chain of command that is being set as far as the Israeli defense minister is concerned. Siddhant now joins us, getting us more details on this. Siddhant, Iran trying to get its act together both in terms of its military and political leadership.
Well, that's right, Poonam. Look, it's a very, very challenging time for regime. In fact, the supreme leader has been assassinated. Along with him, the other 40 senior officials, members of Supreme Leader Secretariat, the group of clerics, etc., were also killed the other day in the strike conducted by U.S. and Israeli forces. So the challenge for the regime, Poonam, right now is to put right people at the right place, and also those who are loyal to the regime, those who believe in the ideology and the working of regime. And this is the reason that the successor of Ali Khamenei has not been announced yet, because there are many such positions which have got vacant. Those positions are critical in running the country, in advising the supreme leader, in advising the president. So all these positions got vacant after U.S. strikes, and perhaps now the people are being appointed on those positions after scrutiny, after going through their track record, and also the loyalty towards the regime. So now this is the fresh announcement. Perhaps we will be expecting more such announcements to be made by Iran in days to come. As I said, that these positions are very, very critical, Poonam, especially in war-like situation.
Absolutely.
So right person at right place who is loyal to the regime is perhaps the criteria right now.
Absolutely, and that's what they are looking at. But this comes at a time when the fighting continues on the sidelines. In fact, the latest information that's now trickled in is that there are missiles that have been fired at US and Israeli enemy targets. This is a fresh offensive that we see by Iran at military targets of the United States. Remember, the United States has several such assets in the Gulf region, in West Asia, and that's something that is the target at the moment as far as Iran goes. This is one of those missiles that has been fired by the Iranian side. Where has it been fired from? What the intended target is? The details, of course, are trickling in. Sanjay continues to be with us, getting us those details. And these kind of explosions, these kind of missile blasts, that's something that seems to have been routine from both sides in the last 72 hours, isn't it?
Yes, and it is significant that, Poonam, we are speaking of both sides because the air superiority of Israel and the US was taken for granted. And a lot of that really comes from the media. We saw images of all these deadly looking planes taking off from the Abraham Lincoln. We saw the Gerald Ford sailing and pictures of F-35s in the sky and the capacity of the Patriot defense system, the THAAD defense systems. These are the most sophisticated weapon systems in the world. THAAD is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, together with the Patriot, are the best systems there are.
Right.
Israel has them. The US has deployed them for Israel, in Israel, and yet they are not able to stop so many of these missiles coming in. Israel has these 3 layers of defense, the Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow, all these supposed to have been between them, providing a cover that's impenetrable. Again, this has not been 100% effective. There is, of course, no such thing as 100% foolproof defense at all, but the numbers of Iranian missiles getting through is significant. That said,
Absolutely.
on the other hand, there is a lot of weapons being delivered into Iran. They're hitting targets with devastating accuracy, hitting a lot of them, just flattening them out. How far that will aid in a regime change within IRGC, whether it will scare the IRGC into surrender to whoever, we don't know. But regime change, yes, in name and face, yes.
Yes.
But the regime as an entity stays in place in Iran.
Absolutely, and that's the message that Tehran wants to send out to the world as well. For the moment, Sanjay, thank you so much for getting us the latest. Our non-stop coverage here on CNN News 18 will continue, but it's a wrap from my side. Thank you so much for tuning in.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
While
Iran has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kansha, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally pole opposite and they have never changed their views for the last about 45, 50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that it's going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a street that they can wish away. They will fight, they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans. And a lot of times people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran itself.
Yes,
So
I'm
let's
glad you said that.
put out. Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your this thing on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince has said about a month back they will not allow their own airspace and ground to be attacked for Iran. But the fact of the matter is that he was the one who went urging, and Trump has said as much, that he came to me and telling this is going to be eventually a challenge. Because when the ballistic missile numbers, which in 2027 they were aiming to make to 8,000, that crosses, and the speed of missile crosses, there was no way Saudis could have protected themselves. So that is one, I think they want to change. The second, they want to change orientation was about the nuclear ambition, with 440 kgs of uranium lying with them for 60% enriched. It was just a matter of time, I think, in a couple of months. Right? The process of integrating, process of weaponizing further takes time, but they would have had the capability to use nuclear weapons. So this was, I think, the Americans wanted, but you know, look at it from the Iranian side. Iran is a sovereign nation. They wanted to have a weapon, nuclear weapons. When Pakistan, which is a terror state, known terror state, can have nuclear weapons and Americans can continue to engage with them, Israel can have in the region, why should not Iran have its own? So I think these were two polarized actions that are taking place, and both have their own mission, and therefore they are both legitimate to fight the war, even at the cost of regional conflict with a global implication. I guess that's how the world works. Not a good world, but yes.
Yeah, and even when it comes to Iran's nuclear ambitions, we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and that's where the United States began playing a key role and almost now dictating to Iran on what it must do next. Hold on, gentlemen, I'll come back to you in just a bit. I want to quickly go across to Shivani. She's being joined by Tom. We need to break down the story, take you through the latest visuals coming in, and also an overview, an analysis of what the impact of this conflict could look like. Shivani, over to you.
Thanks a lot. We're focusing on that F-15 downing that has taken place in Kuwaiti airspace. And these are the visuals of at least one of those American pilots. He's sitting in the boot of a car, lying down. And we can easily identify, Tom, that this is the American uniform and the American airmen.
By his khaki uniform, for example, and G-suit and the survival gear tied to his belly, for example. This is clearly a U.S. Air Force airman.
But there would be two pilots, isn't it?
Yes. In an F-15E, there would be two of them. I haven't seen the video showing the boat of parachutes, so I don't know what happened to the second gentleman.
You can hold this mic as well, Tom,
Yes.
since I have my own. So the other pilot's whereabouts, we don't know.
We don't know.
We've only managed to really get information on one of the pilots. So one of the pilots is secure, and these must be the Kuwaiti people who must have intercepted this downed pilot, but they're going to take him to the US base now.
Probably to the US base or to the Kuwaiti police, Kuwaiti armed forces, and then to the US base.
Yeah. How rare is it for an F-15 to be downed?
Quite rare. It is actually...
Has it happened?
Right, it has happened. I'm currently counting in my head. It's some 4th or 5th loss, combat loss in total.
Okay.
Over 30 years.
Pretty rare. So it's
Since 1991, yes. Pretty rare, yes.
This is that footage.
This is an F-15.
What can you make of this footage?
Well, you can make that it's an F-15 by two fins. You can make it by the form of its platform of its wing. You can make it out by, if you look under the intakes, there are pods. These are targeting pods, navigation and targeting pods, which this is what you see then the video of bombs striking. This is usually taken by this pod under the aircraft. And you can see that the engines are burning.
What does that mean?
That probably the explosion was behind the aircraft, approximately here, causing damage to the engines, probably removing one of the slabs. This is stabilizers, because the right one is visible, the left one not. So this is why it lost control. And then it fell into a flat spin, the crew ejected, and the rest you can see.
So explain to me, what kind of capabilities do you need to down an F-15?
Well, you need quite advanced, at least medium range in this case, probably medium range Iranian surface-to-air missile, for example. And it needs to have quite a hefty warhead, some 25, 30 kilogram, because shooting down an F-15 is not entirely easy, because it has such sophisticated controls that it can fly without specific parts of the airframe.
So tell me a little bit, Tom, who could have done this? Could this have happened from Iranian airspace or territory, or could it have happened from Kuwaiti territory itself? Who could be behind this, and how? From where could it have happened?
There are two options. One is that this aircraft was probably involved in intercepting incoming Iranian UAVs, and then Kuwait shot him down.
Would the Kuwait do that?
It could happen. It could happen. Why? Because both the surface-to-air missiles and the aircraft have to have identification friend or foe equipment which is synchronized. If it's not synchronized, the Kuwaitis are not going to recognize him as friendly and shoot at him.
So it could be a friendly mistaken fire, or
exactly.
the second option is?
The second option is that the Iranians suddenly brought in one of their mobile SAM systems, and while the jet was busy with intercepting UAVs, they shot one of the SAMs at it and shot it down.
Can I ask you one question? I'm not the military expert, of course, but he is a world's renowned, and as some of our viewers would want to know. Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Let's get you a top 10 roundup of all the developments today. US confirms that 3 of its F-15 jets have been shot in friendly fire, mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defense. All 6 pilots ejected safely. Indian national killed after an attack on a tanker off the coast of Oman. Indian embassy says it is in touch with local authorities who are carrying out search operations. New satellite imagery reveals extensive damage to US 5th Fleet Naval Base in Bahrain. Reports indicate all US servicemen living and working on the base evacuated and shifted to hotels. Israel launches fresh wave of strikes in Tehran after Iran fires missiles targeting Netanyahu's office in Tel Aviv. IDF says more IRGC sites across the country to be targeted. US President Donald Trump says he was always prepared for a 4-week operation and expected to take 2 weeks to eliminate Iranian leadership. But having done it in a day, the operation is now running ahead of schedule. Iran rejects Trump's claims on wanting to make a deal and restart negotiations, rules out any sort of talks with the US. Iranian forces target 6th ship in the Strait of Hormuz, announce complete closure of the trade artery of the world for any sort of vessel. Over 6 lakh crores wiped out in investor wealth as Sensex crashes over 1,000 points. Saudi and Omani trade markets slump over 2%, while Kuwait suspends trading as West Asia war triggers panic. Death toll in Pakistan following the violent protests over Khomeini's killing surges past 25 as more and more victims of the US security forces firing succumb to their injuries. Saudi Arabia temporarily shuts its key refinery, Ras Tanura, after being struck by Iranian drones. Riyadh says the fire following the strike is now under control and no refining facilities were hit. The West Asia conflict has entered a perilous new phase, retaliation and escalation across the region, with Iran firing missiles and drones across the Gulf in response to US and Israeli strikes. Hopes that Khomeini's death would stabilize Iran have been dashed. 3 days on, the regime is resolute, warning the US and Israel of swift and decisive retaliation. Global markets are jittery, oil prices are surging, and hundreds of thousands of civilians, including Indians, are stranded as airports in the region shut down. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for restraint and dialogue. The big question is, did Donald Trump really get the math right? Or is the US strategy fueling more chaos than control? First up, Let's take a look at the fury in the Gulf. 4 key targets hit in rapid succession. All of these countries are now fuming. In Qatar, there were explosions that were reported over Doha, raising tensions in the capital. Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura oil facilities faced strikes threatening critical energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, Al Udeid Air Base in Dubai and Zayed International Airport in Abu Dhabi were also targeted, signaling a dramatic escalation across the Gulf. Now, why is this Saudi Arabia oil refinery so critical? Because it is the world's largest refinery when it comes to oil processing. It processes over 550,000 barrels per day and is a key hub for Saudi oil exports, a backbone of the kingdom's revenue. It plays a crucial role in global energy supply chains, strategically connected or located near the Strait of Hormuz, and any disruptions here send shockwaves across fuel markets worldwide, affecting prices from Asia to the Americas. Now, Iran launching this extensive missile offensive, drone offensive across the Gulf, hitting or attempting to hit targets in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and even Oman now. Across the Gulf, reactions were swift, unified, and strongly condemnatory, with several states emphasizing their right to self-defense and warning of consequences. So let's take a look at what some of these countries have said. The UAE says that this is a dangerous escalation and a cowardly act, that they reserve full rights to respond. An attack like this cannot be left without retaliation, is the response of Qatar. Will take necessary measures to defend their security, warns even Saudi Arabia, and Jordan has condemned the attacks on territories of Jordan and other Arab countries. But also take a look at the damage to life that has been caused in multiple countries in West Asia. So, of course, in Iran itself, it has the most casualties, the most collateral damage, including civilian life. As many as 201 have been killed so far, 747 are injured. In Israel as well, the death toll is currently 9. There are 121 who have been injured. Several missile strikes have hit pretty close in Israeli cities. In Iraq, there are now 2 killed, 5 injured. In Kuwait, also 1 death and 32 injured have been reported. In Bahrain, 4 reported injuries, and in Qatar, 16 injured. In UAE, 3 killed and 58 injured, and in Oman, 5 injured as well. While the Gulf countries are furious, the major powers of the world have been divided right down to the middle on the US-Israel action, and then, of course, the elimination of Ali Khamenei as well. Let's break down for you what the major powers of the world are saying as far as these strikes are concerned. Russia called it a cynical murder that violates international norms, but EU has called it a defining moment for Iran, with a different Iran now possible. China said this act is unacceptable and could further inflame tensions in the Middle East, but France says that it can only be satisfied with Khamenei's demise. Brazil pointed out how attacks occurred amidst negotiations, saying that the only viable path were those talks. But Canada called Iran a principal source of instability in the region. Meanwhile, also listen in to what the response of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was earlier today.
पश्चिम एशिया की वर्तमान स्थिति हमारे लिए गहरी चिंता का विषय है। भारत डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से सभी विवादों का समाधान का समर्थन करता है। इस क्षेत्र में मौजूद सभी भारतीय नागरिकों की सुरक्षा के लिए हम सभी देशों के साथ मिलकर काम करते रहेंगे।
Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Mordechai Kedar, former IDF military intelligence officer, is also joining us. All of this, escalation as far as the Gulf countries is concerned, how soon before they realize that this is too much that they can handle and builds pressure on US and Israel? All right, I want to go across to this breaking update that is now coming in. 4 US soldiers have been killed in fighting. This is the latest update that is coming in from America, from US CENTCOM itself. that has said that 4 US soldiers have been killed in the fighting. So there is more damage that the US is taking as far as this entire war is concerned. They had confirmed that 3 of their soldiers had lost their lives in the action after day 1 itself. Now we're nearing 2.5 days per se, 48 plus hours now, and another 4 US soldiers have been killed in the fighting. We'll get you more updates exactly what has transpired, whether this is 4 total deaths now or 4 more deaths now of the US soldiers. But yesterday itself, America had accepted that there are 3 soldiers that have been killed in the fighting. Now the update is 4 US soldiers that have been killed in the fighting. So this is, of course, turning out to be not as easy or swift a military operation. This is going to come with its own costs as far as America is concerned. So already there are deaths or killings of American soldiers that are piling up. But how long can America have the appetite to continue this is the big question, because at home it hasn't been really much support for a military offensive, even if after the announcement of this offensive, many in America have welcomed it, but they don't really have an appetite for a full-blown war. My colleague Akansha is also joining us with more on this. Akansha, what is the latest update?
All right, so Shivani, I can't hear your question, but I can tell you that there's a confirmation coming in from both sides, which is Iran also now confirming that indeed 3 F-15 fighter jets of the United States were downed. Now remember, earlier the statement coming in from CENTCOM was that this was during a combat operation where not just missiles, UAVs, but also Iranian aircraft were involved. Kuwait has also indicated this was a result of friendly fire. Now, of course, what's muddling the situation over here is clearly the barrage of missiles that have been bombarding Kuwait since the wee hours of the morning. It's roughly around at 4:30 a.m. What was being reported earlier was that 6 of the crew members had ejected safely, but now there's another confirmation coming in that 4 US service members have been killed.
So, Akansha, just a quick clarification. This is 4 more after 3 were announced last evening, or this is total 4 deaths now?
No, these are 4 more from the US CENTCOM. The confirmation coming in is in fact from Tampa, Florida, going on to say that as of 7:30 a.m. ET, March 2nd is what they are referring to. So on March 2nd, which is today, 4 US service members have been killed in action. The 4th service member was seriously wounded during Iran's initial attacks, eventually succumbed to their injuries. But most importantly, 3 of the US F-15 fighter jets have been down. This is a confirmation not just coming from the US Central Command, but also now from Iran, that puts to rest the question with regards to the possibility if there were more F-15s involved. So far, we can tell you that 3 F-15s have indeed been downed. Whether this was a result of friendly fire or the involvement of Iranian aircraft as well, whether this was a dogfight, we do not know. But 3 F-15s have been down, and this is huge. This is big news because it only goes on to indicate that Donald Trump has clearly miscalculated this entire attack, because Iran is not throwing in the towel yet. They are digging in their heels and they are going ahead, entering Kuwaiti airspace as well, because if Kuwait and its defense ministry have indicated that there was indeed a dogfight and Iranian aircraft were indeed involved, it goes on to say that their airspace has very much been violated by Iranian aircraft. Shivani.
We're getting more updates now. Even though America is claiming that its 3 jets were downed in friendly fire, Iran is now claiming that it is the one that has actually shot down those 3 US F-15s. Trump had claimed that this was friendly fire in Kuwaiti airspace by Kuwaiti air defense, but Iran says that these were targeted strikes. So is the fog of war now well and truly on, where different sides are going to say different things and possibly try to gain an upper hand in narrative as well, is the big question. Sanjay Suri is also joining us with more on this. But before that, I go across to my colleague Akansha first up. Akansha, now, this is the first such incidence where we've got a direct, contradiction in what US and Iran are saying. US very clearly saying this was friendly fire in Kuwait. First, Kuwaiti ministry came out and said, yes, multiple crashes have happened, but everybody is safe. Now Iran is saying they are the ones who actually downed these aircrafts.
Absolutely, and if the US were to admit that this was a result of Iranian aircraft actually going ahead and downing these 3 F-15s, it is going to mean egg in the face of the US forces, which is perhaps why they are resorting to this narrative building. And we've seen that happen time and again. I would again want to allude to the kind of narrative that emanated out of Operation Sindoor when there were being claims made from both sides, and in fact what muddled it further were the claims that were made by the US president. But this is just a reminder to US, in fact, tasting their own medicine right now when it comes to narrative building. But the confirmation coming in from both sides that yes, indeed, 3 F-15s were downed. It's a huge military loss already within 48 hours now, in fact, ever since the conflict began for the United States. And Iran, as I said, is not throwing in the towel right now. They have already continued with their barrage of missiles. They are targeting oil refineries. The most significant one was in Aramco, where they have, in fact, also had to go and shut down that refinery. We'll have to see if there are going to be more strategic losses over here or not. But I can tell you these are big developments at the moment, and egg in the face almost in terms of the kind of calculations that were done by the US side. Shivani.
All right, let's also go across to Sanjay Suri, who continues to be with us. Sanjay, big contradiction coming in now from both the US and the Iranian sources. There's Iranians now saying that they're the ones who downed these jets. Now, it's pretty rare, for the benefit of our viewers, for an American F-15 to be downed. Now, if Iran managed 3 of them, that could indeed be egg on the face of Americans.
Well, it would be extremely unlikely that these were downed in a dogfight with Iranian aircraft. Iran simply does not have aircraft with that kind of reach, with that kind of power, and that's a fair distance from Iran. Whether it has the capacity to take on such aircraft and engage them in a dogfight and down them, that is the first question. It's a doubtful scenario where Iran could have done this, which is not to say it's absolutely impossible. The word from the US is that this was friendly fire. The word from Kuwait is a little uncertain, but whichever way this is, and if the Iranians certainly are going to jump in and claim this, they may have some evidence and some basis for claiming this. It may have been a dogfight, it may have been a missile fire, it may have been a drone. There are many possibilities here. But a straight dogfight between Iranian aircraft and these aircraft would, on first
this could of course be surface-to-air
unlikely.
missiles more than a dogfight that could have taken place, and certainly Iran has the capabilities of those missiles. But I've got some important breaking updates now coming in. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had 2 important telephonic conversations. He spoke with the King of Bahrain, King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, and also with the Crown Prince and PM of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. PM has condemned the attacks on both of these countries, discussed the well-being of the Indian community in both of these countries as well. Remember, he has already had conversations with other Gulf countries yesterday, and the main focus for India continues to be that Indians in these territories should be safe. This is coming in even as India is condemning any kind of retaliatory strikes from Iran to these Gulf countries. But India, of course, has not really talked about the preliminary strikes by US and Israel onto Iran. But the very fact that Iran has chosen to attack some of these Gulf countries and even civilian or very key industrial oil-related facilities where there are civilian damages and loss of life that has been reported, all of that has not gone down well either with these countries or with India as well. So Iran certainly isolating itself as far as this retaliatory action is concerned. My colleagues Payal Mehta and Aman Sharma are also joining us. Aman, coming to you first, 2 more important calls today. Let's go across to Payal Mehta. Payal, if you can hear me, 2 more important calls today. What more does the release from the government say? What more was discussed?
Yes, the Prime Minister, in fact, calling 2 more leaders today, spoken to them vis-a-vis the condition that you see pan out in that region, in the West Asia region as well. And at the same time, spoke with the King of Bahrain, essentially talking about the strikes that have taken place. And it is said that it is a very important conversation where the Prime Minister has condemned the attack which is happening on civilians. Remember, bombs have been thrown, or strikes have happened at the airports, at residential complexes, etc., which is completely uncalled for. And why should the common man be made a victim out of this? That is something which has been condemned by the Prime Minister. And of course, the fury is there for everybody to see. The Prime Minister has expressed a great concern over the life of civilians, especially Indians who've been stuck in various places as well. And remember, Shivani, last evening, the meeting which began at 10:30 in the evening, where Dr. Jaishankar and the others were present in the CCS, there was a big deal that was made out of how to get Indians out of there and when can we start that evacuation process, really, given the fact that the airspace is completely shut right now. So the meeting, which went on for more than 3 hours, also saw the Prime Minister talking to President Netanyahu in the night as well. So the India comes out and really says that there is no place for violence, and no country can really be ready for war at this stage.
Important, geostrategic signaling here from India, Aman, because India is calling all of its Gulf partners first and foremost, and is standing by them, making statements, against attacks on their territory more than, for example, has been pointed out on Iran itself. So very important geopolitical signaling this.
Well, absolutely, Shivani. The Prime Minister had called up the President of the United Arab Emirates yesterday, and today he's called up the King of Bahrain as well as the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, and his message is similar. He's condemning the strikes on these three nations by Iran. He's condemning these attacks, and especially because these attacks are on the civilian areas, civilian properties of these three countries. We have seen the Dubai airport being attacked. We have seen the Abu Dhabi airport being attacked. We've also seen strikes in Saudi Arabia also by Iran, in Bahrain as well. And that is why the Prime Minister is calling up the premiers of all these three countries, condemning the strikes by Iran. And also topmost on India's mind is the safety and security of the Indian citizens here. So the Prime Minister, while calling up the President of the UAE or the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia or the King of Bahrain, is also seeking reassurances from these leaders that the security of Indians remains paramount, that Indians remain safe in these countries, because right now any rescue effort is not possible because entire airspace is closed, no flights are flying. So India is depending on these countries to assure the safety of Indians there, and that explains all these calls. Yet the opposition in this country, Congress Party and others, are criticizing that why is India not speaking about the death of Khamenei, but at the same time the topmost priority of India right now remains to ensure the safety of Indians and to criticize the attacks on civilian targets in such countries by Iran. And that is what the Prime Minister seems to be doing through his diplomacy and these calls which are going out from him to the President of UAE yesterday, and today to the King of Bahrain and the PM of Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and Payal, we've also been kind of thinking about this possibility where there will be a mission to get as many Indians back home, because a lot of them have been reaching out to embassies, to the Ministry of External Affairs. India has launched such programs in the past. Could something like this be on the lines for those who really want to come back to India right now, or who were stuck while they were trying to fly to India?
Well, Shivani, after a late night meeting of the CCS, I did speak to one of my sources, in fact, to ask them what really was happening in terms of what is our rescue plan, given the fact that they took a comprehensive review last evening about where the Indians are stuck, what are the missions doing, are the missions providing them assistance or not. But the fact remains that, when the entire airspace is shut, there's not much that you can really do. India is constantly monitoring the situation, constantly monitoring the state of affairs which exists. The locals have been asked to stay in touch with the embassy. In fact, quite a few VIPs have also been stuck. You remember Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, in fact, beg your pardon, has been stuck over there. She had a conversation with you yesterday as well. Sonal Chauhan was one of the people who actually had reached out to the Prime Minister through a post on X as well. So all of these things have been coming to the notice of the government, and a lot of students, especially students from Jammu and Kashmir, have also reached out to the government saying that they would like to be rescued as soon as possible. Everything is ready, it seems, but we are just waiting for the airspace to open up. Once the airspace opens up, and there is no risk for flying. In fact, if there is a nota which is in place, there's not much that you can really nota. If it is in place, there's not much that you can really do as well. So India is watching the situation very, very carefully. And India is extremely concerned given the fact that Netanyahu also yesterday said that the situation will only escalate from here on. So India has time and again, Shivani, said that India is not neutral. When many countries and many people in the opposition ask India, what is your position? India's position is not neutral. India is in the position of peace. India takes the position of peace as well. That is something which has been articulated multiple times. So situation is being watched over. And the moment it's feasible for anybody to fly out, the rescue mission will definitely be launched. That's what my sources in the government are saying.
Okay. Aman, coming to you as well, you know, there cannot be a more defining moment as far as West Asia for us is concerned. Because, yes, there's been a long-standing relationship with Iran, but it's clear that India, which is a much more important global player in decision-making now, is indeed sending signals that whatever is happening is in Iran is separate. It doesn't really need to get involved there or even talk about it. What it needs to focus on is the relationship with some of these Gulf countries.
Well, absolutely, Shivani, and the CCS meeting which happened last night under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, even in that meeting, it was very clear that India will reach out to all the regional players, while be it in West Asia or otherwise, because India wants peace and de-escalation to happen in this particular region. I know India has been a very important player in West Asia. Just in this December, the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, had visited both Jordan as well as Oman. Then we saw the President of UAE visiting India in the month of January. You also had all the Arab foreign ministers coming to India in January, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, had met all of these Arab foreign ministers as well. So India in West Asia, you know, from being a side player till many years ago, is now very much central. It is seen as a dependable player, a player which is neutral and, you know, does not take any sides. And that is why India has been pushing the top priority. As I told you, there's already contingency plans being made on how to rescue Indians who want to come back from the Middle East. You know, it's a big number. There are nearly 8 million Indians who live in the Middle East, you know, who earn their living there. So it will be a humongous task to bring them back. But I must tell you that contingency plans are already being made. And as Payal was saying, as soon as the airspace opens, India may make an effort to bring those back, people back who want to come back. Right now, the priority is to speak to all these regional players in the region, condemn the strikes on their civilian installations, and also impress upon them that they should take all steps possible to keep Indians safe in their respective countries.
All right, I do thank you both for joining us. Let's go across to Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Mordechai Kedar. He's a former IDF military intelligence man. I want to ask you, you know, Iran claiming that Iran is the one that has downed these 3 American jets. What do you make of that claim that is coming in?
They are actually acting against their own interests because they now want high flames after we had low flames from the beginning of the war. And now they are willing to ignite the whole area. To ignite Saudi Arabia, to ignite Kuwait, to ignite the Emirates. You know, they sent more drones to Kuwait, to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, more than they sent to Israel. To that degree.
What do you make of this strategy? Very quickly, sir, what do you make of this strategy? Why are they doing this? And how long will some of these countries, how long before they say to US and Israel that, you know, we can't take this any longer?
This is the strategy of creating havoc and chaos in order to stop the war against them by America, because America doesn't want a havoc on all over the world and civil war, which, you know, wars between countries which nobody knows how to end them. And this is why they are widening the war. And actually, Netanyahu, our prime minister, said it explicitly to your prime minister, Modi, who visited Jerusalem last week. And he heard from Netanyahu that Iran poses a threat not only to Iran and to its neighbors, but to the entire region of the Middle East, if not also other parts of the world.
So who will blink first here? You're saying this is to mount pressure on America and Israel. Are they likely to blink? Because this is certainly getting out of hand.
Look, the Iranian regime should be kicked out either to Moscow or to China or to North Korea, or they should leave Iran. They should leave the state to better people like the Shah or others.
Okay.
They failed. They failed in everything, failed in human rights. Look how many thousands of people they just killed 2 months ago in the streets only because they were demonstrating without any weapons. This regime should be exterminated.
All right, I'll leave it at that. Just stay with me. I've got some more updates coming in. Qatar has shut down its LNG production now. 20% of the global gas supply could be hit. Indian government has also reviewed all the impact of this ongoing
instability in the region. Indian Oil Minister has also chaired a key meet. Akansha is joining us with more on this. Certainly, some of the global impact in terms of power and energy could be quite steep, Akansha.
This is as Qatar itself has halted its own energy facilities, especially in Masai, the industrial city, and Ras Laffan industrial city. Two of these, in fact, were major LNG producers. And how is this going to impact India? Well, Qatar happens to be India's largest supplier of LNG. 10 to 11 million barrels is what, in fact, India was looking at. The 10 to 11 million tons per annum is, in fact, the business that India was giving to Qatar during the financial year of 2024 to 25. And so for India to be taking that decision is huge. This is just within 3 days of the conflict having started. Such is the impact on the market, especially on energy supplies. And the company said, as far as Qatar is concerned, that this is a precautionary move because both these industrial cities that I just now mentioned, Shivani, were targeted by Iran. Is this going to have a ripple effect? Are we also going to look at other refineries as part of Aramco? Because as we speak, the OPEC plus nations, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all of these nations have in fact vowed to increase the overall oil and energy output by 35%. But if Iran is going to continue to attack all of these refineries, whether it is to do with oil production or even LNG, how will they be able to meet the global demand? Russia is sanctioned. Iran is completely shattered at the moment. Venezuela is going to take time when it comes to resurrection of their own oil economy. So this is going to be a global impact that the world needs to be bracing up for.
Yes, absolutely. And one wonders if the larger game is indeed oil and more control over it. Akansha, thanks a lot for joining us. But the other big update as far as this war is concerned is between Israel and Hezbollah. That is escalating sharply. Hezbollah has fired missiles and drones towards Israel, claiming the strikes were for retaliation for the killing of Iran's supreme leader. The group says it targeted an Israeli missile defense site near Haifa in what it described as revenge for the recent attacks on Tehran. In response, the Israeli Defense Forces launched pre-dawn airstrikes on Hezbollah strongholds in Beirut's southern suburbs as well as across South Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley, targeting command centers and operatives tied to the group. The Israeli military has now warned Hezbollah it will pay a heavy price for opening a campaign against the state, framing its strikes as defensive measures to protect its citizens and border. Israel has vowed this sharp retaliation after Hezbollah fired these missiles and drones. Defense Minister Israel Katz said, and I quote, "The terrorist organization Hezbollah will pay a heavy price for the shooting towards Israel." And Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, who decided on the shooting under pressure from Iran, he is now a marked target for elimination.
Overnight, the IDF carried out retaliatory strikes against several Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, including command and control centers, launch sites, and senior terrorists. We were ready for this. As part of the preparations for our operation in Iran, the IDF prepared for an attack from Hezbollah, allowing us to carry out a swift response. As I am speaking right now, our aircraft are striking targets in Iran, including Tehran, such as underground bunkers of the terror regime. We are operating to eliminate any threats to our civilians and will continue doing so. Hezbollah is entering a fight it cannot win.
Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Kedar continues to be with us. A quick comment on this new opening up of the front with Hezbollah. How prepared is Israel to tackle this menace as well?
Well, we got rid of the Hezbollah leadership already more than a year ago, and we'll do it again. And there's no way to live side by side near states like Iran and organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas. These organizations should be finished totally, decisively. Otherwise, they will come again and will hit again. And you guys in India, you know exactly what this is. You had the terror attacks in Mumbai coming from Pakistan. These things have to be dealt with very decisively.
Okay.
And we are doing it in Tehran today, and we'll do it in Beirut tonight.
All right. I leave it at that. I do thank you, sir, for joining us. More breaking updates coming in. UK is evacuating all security personnel from its military base in Cyprus following Iranian military strike. This is also, a widening of the conflict and the regional
unrest. Remember, UK did not respond very kindly to the fact that one of its bases was also sought to be attacked by the Iranian retaliatory strikes. Even though UK initially took a stance against this US-Israel action, it said that none of its bases are going to be allowed to be used by these two countries. Then they had to recalibrate a little bit. They had to say, okay, for defensive strikes against Iranian missile strike sites, we might allow the use of British bases. Sanjay Suri is also joining us with more on this. Sanjay, what more are you picking up?
Well, we know that Israel has now called up 100,000 reserve troops, and that's a huge number. Israel has a formal army of about 600,000, so a calling of 100,000 reserves is a very significant pointer, and this is a step that goes with the announcement that we've had that Israel is not ruling out a ground offensive against Hezbollah. So clearly, the IDF is preparing for a ground offensive. Whether it will be launched or not, we don't know. The first step is going to be more airstrikes. Again, we have word from the Israeli government and from Netanyahu himself that the attacks are going to be stepped up against Iran, most certainly. And now, in the face of this attack from some groups of Hezbollah, the IDF is certainly going to hit them hard. We've seen that begin already through the airstrikes. But if this does lead then to a ground offensive, then that will widen the war front very, very significantly. And that is going to be a decision, and that would be a move that will have very long-term consequences and could potentially change the map around this region. That kind of result is not something Israel is exactly shy of.
Yes. Meanwhile, Iran is continuing to kind of draw in more of these global powers, European nations that actually didn't want anything to do with this, which is, of course, the attacking of the UK base in Cyprus as well. Already Donald Trump has said a short while ago that he was disappointed with Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister's stance, that he wasn't going to allow any UK bases to be used for the American action. Sanjay, I do thank you for joining us for the meantime. Western countries saw the death of Khamenei as a turning point for Iran, hoping that this will propel the country's public to take over an effective regime change. But so far, none of that is transpiring. Instead, as we enter day 3 of this conflict, Iran is only making more and more statements showing its intent that nothing will change and it will come after US and Israel like never before. So this is the warning shot that has been shot by their foreign minister, saying we lost some commanders, but nothing has changed in our military capability. This time, retaliation will be even faster than before. Have studied US defeats over the past 2 decades and incorporated lessons. They say bombings in our capital have no impact on our ability to conduct war. There is no victory in this war. US and Israel cannot achieve their targets. Meanwhile, Iran has also shunned the idea of any talks with USA or Washington anymore, saying that Tehran will not negotiate any further. Ali Larijani said Trump has plunged the region into chaos with his false hopes. American first has become Israel first. He reiterated that Iranian forces did not initiate the invasion. In other words, the responsibility doesn't lie with them to exercise restraint. Iran has opened a broad front in its retaliation, striking strategic and military locations across the region. Take a look at some of the sites that it has attacked. Of course, a lot of them have to do with US bases in these Gulf countries, but there have also been sounds heard of firing over Riyadh. Of course, Tel Aviv is a big target for them. The Erbil Air Base, the Al Salam Air Base, US 5th Fleet, Al Udeid Air Base and Al Dhafra Air Base, all of them have been at the target. But the big question is that along with these targets, what has also happened is that civilian areas or certain critical installations like energy, oil, power installations have also come under attack, and that is certainly isolating Iran even further when it comes to these Islamic nations. Even Saudi Arabia, for example, has been furious, even though it initially attacked US and Israel for attacking Iran. I want to go across to Burzeen Wagmar, who's from the Center of Iranian Studies, South Asia Institute from University of London. How do you see this strategy from Iran,
where it is alienating all of these Gulf countries. Today, the greatest specter of this war is actually playing out in countries like UAE and Saudi Arabia. Does this suit Iran in the long term?
It doesn't suit Iran, but it pursues what is part of the Islamic Republic's DNA since 1979. And people are perplexed as to why Iran is on all fronts with this scattergun approach. But then you must understand and back up a bit, Shivani, in that this is the pain threshold that Iran is willing to inflict upon itself as a Shia regime, which you don't necessarily find in Sunni Islam. It goes back to notions of martyrdom, suicide bombing, and killing with what they experienced during the 1980 to 88 Iraq War. It is in a way a replay of that, because that time too the Arabs were, supporting Iraq against Iran. This time it's slightly different in that it's not just Israel that it wants to attack, but roping in all these other GCC allies who until a fortnight ago had given their assurance publicly that we will not let the US or anyone else attack Iran in good faith. And they were not concocting deals with Jerusalem and Washington in the background. Far from it. We do know that MBS and the Saudis, for example, were not on board with this because in the last 1 year after June 2025 12-day war, Foreign Minister Arakchi was on a bridge building trip with Tehran, Cairo and the others. And he had somehow come to an amicable modus vivendi. It was still a strained relationship with the Arabs for all traditional reasons. But the Arabs, for example, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, who had asked DC and Trump not to do this, had come to thinking that we can deal with a cornered, wounded, embattled, beleaguered Iran, which may not necessarily do much to us, given that its capabilities have been degraded from last June, and it's not able to fund Hamas and Houthis and Hezbollah.
You know, we are getting the first press conference from the Americans. Let's listen in.
Was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it. Today, in their desperation, the enemy is unmasked as Iranian missiles and drones rain down indiscriminately on the hotels, airports, apartments, and other civilian targets of their neighbors. Cowardly terrorist tactics from a regime that for decades has trafficked in cowardly terrorist tactics, lies, death, and destruction to this day. The Iranian leadership has built nothing except proxies and missiles and drones and deeply buried nuclear factories and facilities. Peaceful nuclear ambitions do not need to be buried underneath mountains. Last June, Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated their nuclear program to rubble. Afterward, we told them plainly, that's it, now make a deal. They arrogantly refused. We said, rebuild it, and we'll stop you again, this time far worse. Well, President Trump, Secretary Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, they bent over backwards for real diplomacy, offering pathway after pathway to peace. I watched it. I was there. They tried over and over and over again earnest attempts at peace. The former regime had every chance to make a peaceful and sensible deal. But Tehran was not negotiating. They were stalling, buying time to reload their missile stockpiles and restart their nuclear ambitions. Their goal, hold us hostage, threatening to strike our forces. Well, President Trump doesn't play those games. And as Secretary Rubio said after the Maduro raid, if you don't know, now you know. President Trump puts America and Americans first. He doesn't hesitate, and neither do our troops. The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. We're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker. We set the terms of this war from start to finish. Our ambitions are not utopian, they are realistic, scoped to our interests and the defense of our people and our allies. Speaking of people, we hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force. America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives. As the president warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America. May we prosecute the remainder of this operation in a manner that honors them. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury for them and the thousands of Americans before them, taken too soon by Iranian radicals. Before I turn it over to General Kane for the operational update, let me speak straight to you, the Joint Force, our warriors on the front lines. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris, my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our commander-in-chief is steady at the wheel. We face a determined enemy, but you are better. But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform, that uniform. You think clearly under fire, you act decisively in chaos, you uphold the Constitution, and you uphold our country without hesitation. We are not defenders anymore. We are warriors, trained to kill the enemy and break their will. History is watching. Be the force you swore an oath to be: focused, disciplined, lethal, and unbreakable. We will finish this on America First conditions of President Trump's choosing. Nobody else's, as it should be. And know this above all, President Trump and I have your back, always. Through fire, through criticism, through fake news, through everything. We unleash you because you are the best, most powerful, most lethal fighting force the world has ever seen. May Almighty God watch over you and his providential arms of protection extend over you. Godspeed, warriors, and keep going. General Kane, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, everyone. The purpose of my portion of the briefing today is to update you and the American people on the actions taken thus far. The briefing will discuss the preparation, the planning, setting the force, the early operations, and how we're assessing the progress thus far. So let's get started. On Saturday, 28 February, at 01:15 Eastern Standard Time, 9:45 a.m. local Tehran time, on the orders of the President of the United States, U.S. Central Command, under the command of United States Navy Admiral Brad Cooper, commenced Operation Epic Fury. As I said, I'm going to walk you through the initial phases of the operation, but first, I want to express my deep condolences and the condolences of the Joint Force to the Department of War. They're heroes and represent the best of our nation has to offer. They're true examples of what selfless service means. Our deepest and heartfelt condolences are with their families, their friends, and their units. We grieve with you and we will never forget you. Additionally, I stand here before you today grateful for each service member, planner, logistician, operator across our joint force. For our Department of War civilians, our intelligence community teammates, our interagency teammates who continue to stand in harm's way alongside us. I am proud of all of you as you take the fight to the enemy, and we are the best in the world at integrating, period. I want to extend my personal gratitude to the dedicated commanders and senior enlisted leaders and the enlisted members of the Joint Force who are fighting this fight across the CENTCOM AOR. In addition to Admiral Cooper and Fleet Master Chief Compton, I want to highlight a few today. U.S. Army Central Command Commander Lieutenant General Pat Frank, who along with his team are fighting the counter-missile and counter-drone fight. United States Navy Central Command Commander Vice Admiral Kurt Renshaw and his team, who are engaged with the Iranian Navy and projecting American naval combat power from the seas. And United States Air Force Central Command Commander Lieutenant General Derek France and his leadership team, who are crushing Iranian targets from the air. I want to highlight the support to the CENTCOM fight from other combatant commands who are directly involved with this effort, to include U.S. Spacecom, U.S. Cybercom, and U.S. UCOM. I also want to specifically call out United States Transportation Command and U.S. STRATCOM for their contributions to this fight. We cannot project American combat power at the time and place of our choosing without both. And finally, I want to express how deeply thankful I am for the continued service and sacrifice of the entire Joint Force and their families. Their unwavering commitment and dedication are the cornerstones of this effort. So let me start with a few details. First, to be clear, as the Secretary said, this is not a single overnight operation. The military objectives that CENTCOM and the Joint Force have been tasked with will take some time to achieve, and in some cases will be difficult and gritty work. We expect to take additional losses, and as always, we will work to minimize U.S. losses. But as the Secretary said, this is major combat operations. So let me talk about the preparation and the planning. On February 28th, the full strength of America's armed forces came together in a unified purpose against a capable and determined adversary. The United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, and our reserve components integrated across our combatant commands and began coordinated operations with the Israeli armed forces of an unprecedented scale. As the Secretary laid out, our military objectives are clear. Our mission is to protect and defend ourselves and, together with our regional partners, prevent Iran from the ability to project power outside of its borders and be ready for follow-on actions as appropriate. Across every domain, land, air, sea, cyber, the U.S. Joint Force delivered synchronized and layered effects designed to disrupt, degrade, deny, and destroy Iran's ability to conduct and sustain combat operations. On the U.S. side, this marked the culmination of months and in some cases years of deliberate planning and refinement against this particular target set. from precision strikes against key military infrastructure to persistent intelligence and targeting integration to the close coordination of the components across vast distances. This operation, again, demonstrated America's reach, readiness, and professionalism, and that of our joint united force. It was historic not only in the operational scope, but in the level of joint integration displayed across every element of the joint force. And as I said earlier, this work is just beginning and will continue. So now to talk a little bit about setting the force and setting the theater. On the order of the Secretary of War over the last 30 days to reinforce deterrence and provide the President with credible options should action be required, the Joint Force began to systematically reposition assets and personnel across the region. These movements ensured that U.S. forces remained postured, protected, and ready to respond decisively for any emerging threat. This deployment included thousands of service members from all branches, hundreds of advanced fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens of refueling tankers, the Lincoln and Ford Carrier Strike Group and their embarked air wings, sustained flow of munitions, fuel, supplies, all supported with command and control, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance network. And the flow of forces continues today. In fact, Admiral Cooper will receive additional forces even today. This rapid buildup of forces demonstrated the joint forces' ability to adapt and project power at the time and place of our nation's choosing. I want to highlight a couple specific cases for you. The Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, which many of you know was down in the Western Hemisphere, redeployed across the Atlantic to set the theater. The ship, her crew, their families, and the entire strike group took a deep breath and, as they always do, began planning to conduct combat operations. The integrated Reserve and National Guard forces have continued to demonstrate the value of America's reserve forces, including the Wisconsin Army National Guard operating in Kuwait and Iraq, and Air National Guard units.
Viewers, America might have plunged the Gulf into chaos, and there's big breaking news coming in, and I'm going to go straight across to Aman to get it. Aman, this is very big news that is coming through. We are being told that the Iranian media has made some astonishing claims.
Well, yes, Rahul, what we are learning is that Iran's IRGC is now making a big claim that in a latest missile strike, they have targeted the Prime Minister Netanyahu's compound. They are saying that the Israeli Air Force commander's location has also been targeted in a surprise attack by the IRGC, and they are claiming that Netanyahu's fate is unclear. They are saying that they have carried out a very surprise attack where Netanyahu was, and Netanyahu's future fate is uncertain. Has he survived? Has he not survived? That is the IRGC's claim, big claim coming in today after Israel's big strikes in which Kenamai was taken out.
Well, you know, viewers, there is a lot happening on the ground there. I'm going to bring in Tom Cooper in just a few moments, but I'm going to go straight across to Akanksha also. Let's go straight across to Akanksha. Let's get some news from Akanksha. Akanksha, you're here with us, and I want to come straight out to you. It's a long newsroom, but there is some news breaking about the U.S. Embassy.
So the biggest that we are getting right now is with regards to Netanyahu's office being bombed. This is at least what Iran is claiming, that their IRGC has managed to bomb them. At the same time, Rahul, we must keep in mind that there's already information doing the rounds that Netanyahu has left the country. He's headed either to Greece or Germany. The whereabouts of the Israeli Prime Minister are not known. You know that the British consulate has also been attacked. So Kuwait very much on the radar.
And the U.S. embassy in Kuwait has been shut down because apparently that was also targeted.
Yes, and why just Kuwait? Look at the way Pakistan has in fact been responding. 20 protesters already dead. Their consulate officers over there were retaliating severely. U.S. is currently on tenterhooks because their IRGC is very much digging in their grounds. In fact, there's a warning for the viewers over here. A lot of misinformation doing the rounds as we speak, because there's already viral videos showing how Iranian nuclear sites have been bombed on the other side. There's
Yes.
also a confirmation coming in from IAEA that the Iranian representative has shared information that there is enough damage being done to the Natanz nuclear facility, which means there could be very much risks of radioactive leakage taking place. What is the IAEA going to do about this? How is the UN going to respond? We'll have to see. The next few 48 hours are going to be extremely critical.
So what now we are being told, and I'm going to come into with Aman here, what we are being told, and let's walk through. Aman, what have you got with you?
This is Rahul, the picture put out by the AFP. This is where the smoke is billowing out very near the US embassy in Kuwait. This is the picture that the AFP has put out and clicked by their own correspondent. This is why the US embassy in Kuwait has been shut down. And earlier in the day we saw those horrific visuals coming from the US consulate in Karachi, which was also attacked by people. And this was the exclusive visuals, in fact, that our internal security editor Manoj Gupta had brought us. Horrific visuals, people being brought out, bloodied faces, one person was also being carried out, his body after he was shot. We believe that the US Marines had shot 20 Pakistanis dead for storming their consulate yesterday, and that is why today...
Yeah, there you're seeing it. There you're seeing some of those bloodied hands and faces and people shot and being carried out. You can see some of those pictures, those are dramatic pictures. And then, of course, let's just go back to the other photo of the Kuwait photo of the suspected attack on the US consulate there, and that's why the consulate is shut. Now, we don't know if there were people inside that consulate or not, but AFP putting out this photo of an area very close to the US consulate. Now, how are these missiles getting through?
Namaste, Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. The focus remains on the fury in the Gulf. With the larger question, which of these entities will take the right stand in the interest of humanity, in the interest of peace, in the interest of perhaps a certain level of order in the world of economics, trade, and also lives and livelihood? Because if this fury and if this war continues into about 2 to 3 weeks, viewers, we are all going to feel an energy crunch. But all that and more after a quick check of the top lines. PM had two important telephone conversations today, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with the King of Bahrain. He also spoke with Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia. PM condemned the attacks on both these nations and discussed the well-being of the Indian community in both these countries. The Pentagon has said that the United States did not start the war, but they will finish it. American forces are hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically, adding that this is not Iraq, this is not endless. Number of American soldiers killed in action goes up to 4. One of the US troops who was injured has now succumbed. Big twist coming in after the US forces claim 3 F-15s were shot down due to friendly fire. Iran claims it shot down the jets. Qatar stops LNG production amid the targeting of oil infrastructure in the Gulf. They produce 20% of the world's LNG needs. Explosive visuals of carpet bombing across Tehran as tensions escalate. Donald Trump says Iran's interim leaders were willing to enter ceasefire talks and revealed operations had been designed to last 4 weeks or a shorter time if Tehran came to the table to agree on a nuclear deal. Iranian security chief Ali Larijani has denied that he reached out to Washington via Oman in an effort to resume nuclear talks, saying we will not negotiate with the United States. Iranian missiles destroy oil tanker flying the US flag while it was in the port of Bahrain. New satellite imagery reveals extensive damage to US 5th Fleet Naval Base in Bahrain. Reports indicate all US servicemen living and working on the base evacuated and shifted to hotels. In the past few hours, Saudi Arabia's main stock market index fell by 2.18% and Oman's main market index also dropped by up to 3%. Kuwait also suspended its stock market trading as a precautionary measure. Saudi Arabia temporarily shuts its key refinery Ras Tanura after being struck by Iranian drones. Riyadh says the fire following the strikes is under control and no refining facilities have been hit. Greece to send 2 warships and 2 fighter jets in defense of Cyprus following Iranian drone attack. Indian national killed after an attack on a tanker off the coast of Oman. The Indian embassy says it's in touch with local authorities who are carrying out search operations for other missing crew members. Death toll in Pakistan following violent protests over Khamenei's killing surges past 25 as more and more victims of US security forces firing succumb to their injuries. Well, it's a continuous flow of news and updates because the war is on and things are changing by the minute. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have revealed data from Operation Roaring Lion to date. They are saying that approximately 600 terrorist infrastructure sites of Iranian regime have been dismantled. That's the claim that they are making, that up to 600 terrorist infrastructure sites of the Iranian regime have been dismantled. But is that even 10% of the Iranian capacities and capabilities that the Iranians have? We will try and speak with our guests and understand how much of this is really going to hurt the Iranians, or are they also in a way ready for the long haul? As Largiani said, you want a short, sharp end to this. We are in it for the long haul and we know how to play this. We fought Iraq for 10 years and they know how to play this long game. Meanwhile, the counter-offensive has also shown that Iran has the firepower to target assets in the region. Iran's military assets, let's quickly look at this. Active personnel on ground, I'll move to this side. Active personnel on ground is about 610,000 active personnel, and they have 350,000 in reserve and also another 200,000 in para. So they nearly have about 1 million of personnel who they can call up. In terms of the air power, their total aircraft, they have 551 aircraft, 188 fighters. The total aircraft come down to about 128, or we've just, I think there's some error here. Helicopters are 128, attack helicopters are 13, and transports are 87. Now, meanwhile, tanks, 1,713 tanks, armored vehicles, 65,825, artillery, 2,462, and of course, rocket projectors, 1,517. This is all the Iranian actual army. Now, we're not counting the proxies and the number of rockets that the Hezbollah themselves have that go into about 60 to 70,000 rockets. In terms of naval power, this is what the Americans have wanted to try and suppress and bring down. And they claim that they have brought down quite a lot of their boats in the first set of attacks. Total vessels 107. These are subs, and a lot of them are mini subs, and they are quite potent in that Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. 25 of them, 7 frigates, 3 corvettes, and 21 patrol boats. One of these corvettes has been brought down by the Americans and the Israeli operation Epic Fury already. That's what the Americans have already claimed. They want a weaker Iranian navy. More than that, nuclear sites and warheads, they have none confirmed as of now, but there is worry that they are very close to enriching uranium up to 90%, but that's still far away. It's not confirmed yet. In terms of ballistic missiles, they have the Sejul series, they have the Shahab series. In fact, we'll get into their missile ranges very soon. Their missile range is overall up to 2,000 kilometers, but they have a barrage that stacks up from 0 to 100 till up to 2,000 to 2,500. No nuclear subs. They don't have any nuclear subs, but they do have enough and more in terms of their ballistic missile arsenal. They've just unleashed the Khyber today, where they tried to strike the Israeli parliament and claim that they've got Netanyahu. but that was not true. That came out to be a big bluff. Both sides claiming a lot. Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma with me, Adrian Fontanella is with us, Tom Cooper has been with us through the day. Gents, thank you very, very much. We've got our other guests also joining us. Dr. Anand Ranganathan will be with us on the other side. And we should have Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon. There he is. Namaste, Jai Hind to everybody. Thank you very, very much. Let's just start from within the studio and then I'll take it outside. Ambassador Saab, the safety of Bharatiya, nearly 8 million Indians in that region, is going to be key amidst all of this. How are we going to be able to ensure that?
So the first of all is to talk to the political leadership in those countries, and Honorable Prime Minister has already started doing that. In order to get the other second line ready, our embassies have already floated their toll-free numbers, helplines for them to call on. And once we have an integrated database, then I'm sure we will have the evacuation plan ready for them. And whenever there is the right time to evacuate, India is capable to do that. It has shown it in the past as well.
Yeah, but 8 million is not a small number, and also various nationals and nationalities. A lot of people will be a little worried because for a lot of them it's about livelihood. And if everything comes to a standstill there are no earnings. This can become a crunch situation. For a week, people can manage. 10 days, they'll stretch. But moment it spills over into nearly a month, then that's another concern that we'll have.
So that is something which is not in our hands, and that's why we have been urging the countries who are into this conflict to cease hostility as soon as possible. Not only for our own countrymen, but also for resuming normal trade, resuming normal energy supplies, resuming the connectivity through Chabahar and all. So all these things are a part of that. But unfortunately, that is an element we cannot control. And therefore, we have to be ready to evacuate as many as we can, not only to India, but also to the neighboring countries and safer zones in that geography.
But how long can we as a country stay neutral? Stay absolutely, on either side, speak to all sides and not just push for peace? Is there a possibility that we may also get dragged into this?
I think we are quite experienced in that, and our strategic autonomy of the foreign policy will drive us forward. And depending on the situation arising, we should be able to take over.
Okay, we got more news coming through. Ayatollah Khamenei's wife has also succumbed to the injury she suffered from the bombing and that entire concentrated pounding of the Khamenei compound by the US-Israeli attack on day one itself. So she is no more. So she is also eliminated. So one by one, barring one Hassan Khamenei, if I remember correctly, almost all the entire Khamenei is out. But Ali Raza has been appointed as one of the interim leaders, and many believe that he was the one closest to Ayatollah, and he would be very clued in, and he will take it forward. He's the one who's making the statements. He's the one who's saying we are going as per the plan outlined by Martyr Khamenei. That's what he had said earlier. Tom, your thoughts on that? How are Iran going to fight this?
Larijani remains the key figure.
Larijani.
Larijani, yes. And he has all the links in his hands and is pulling strings in his hands and pulling, as he likes. And Ali Reza is well, we are going to see which way is he going to go, because there are two variants of the teachings along which the supreme leader of the revolution is supposed to run. But as expected, they have very quickly replaced all the losses.
They've also got a defense minister in place?
Yes, all the commanders as well. These are an entirely new generation. These people are foremost technocrats. They are not so much, there are very few people left with combat experiences from Iran-Iraq war, which is like the old guard has had it. So this we can, excuse me, but as Europeans, on the basis of experiences of the last few years, we have learned to go for the worst case scenario. And that means in this case, it's going to be it's going to get even more intensive.
more intensive. Worst case scenario, Adrian, you agree before I bring in General Thilan and Dr. Ranganathan? Yes, Adrian?
Yeah. I'm focusing on military aspects.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's a surprise that the Iranians managed since 3 days now to continue such an intensive bombing campaigns with their missiles and UAVs all over the Middle East. There are some still unconfirmed numbers from the Jerusalem Post, but it is unconfirmed, so it's probably a rough idea rather than any true, but which counted something like 1,500 missiles and UAV shot during the first 2 days of the war. It's enormous, and they managed to do it in the face of Israeli and American air suppression campaigns. So if they can continue it that fashion during weeks on end, then it is extremely worrying.
Does that surprise you that the Iranians had so many ballistic missiles and also UAVs?
No, it's not a matter of the number of missiles, but the ability to fire them, continuously fire them whilst they have to avoid detection from the US intelligence array, satellites, electronic gathering, and so forth. So, of course, they can use the immense geography of Iran, the sheer size of Iran, and the mountainous terrain. But still, they weren't firing that much during the 12 days war last year against Israel. And now they are managing to do more, whilst it is even more difficult to do so.
Right. But
if you permit one more remark.
Yeah.
We see, particularly in this loss of 3 US F-15s over Kuwait, shot down by friendly forces, that the coordination on the US side is poorer than expected. And I think it is not much better on the Israeli side. Why? Because both chiefs of general staff and all the top commanders have been adjusted, by figures handpicked by Netanyahu and Trump respectively. So the performance is not where it might have been expected, let's say this way. Performance of the US and Israeli armed forces.
Is it possible, Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dhillon, that in friendly fire you'd lose 3 F-16s? Or it's always that the F-16s need to be protected? Because the Iranians claim we got them down. The Americans have accepted. There were ballistic missiles, there were drones, and there were Iranian aircrafts. So F-4, F-5s, and the second generation, third generation aircraft brought down a fourth generation aircraft?
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to the fellow panelists and viewers. See, the question about 3 aircrafts of that technical level being brought down by a friendly fire, I think something is amiss here. Otherwise, there is a very old military proverb. Friendly fire is the most accurate fire. It never misses its target. But having said that, see, one odd aircraft getting down under friendly fire scenario is okay. But 3 of them in a short span of time, I think there is more to it. And as the time would pass, I think the clarity would come. I would not hazard a guess here, but 3 in one friendly fire is little too much.
Right. 3 in one friendly fire is a little too much. What's your assessment? What's your assessment? Do you see it more escalating a little more?
Absolutely. If these aircrafts have been downed by Iranian missiles, it would escalate more. And as the point was being made with our guest in our studio, see, the first and foremost thing during a war is to suppression of enemy air defense. Once the enemy air defense has been suppressed, then is the next stage is carrying out the air superiority. Once that is achieved, then the missiles and drones will stop and the aircrafts would start going in and start taking on the pinpoint targets. It's been already 60 odd hours. 60 odd hours, the Iranian air defense, I don't think has been completely suppressed to be complete air superiority has been achieved. That's the reason they are able to move their missiles to the alternate sites, to the secondary sites, and fire from within their own area of influence.
Correct.
And that is how they are doing multiple type of missile firing.
Right.
The hypersonic and all, they're targeting the Israeli areas and the
American sites, which is piloted by the, say, these dead missiles or the older missiles, to give a shield from the incoming shield to the radars out there.
Right.
The radars pick up the dead missiles coming as pilots at a slower speed, and that is when from behind the hypersonic would come and hit the target intended. So there is a lot of tactics being involved at the lower level or at the planning level, and then they're shifting the site immediately after the firing has taken place, so that their location of missile firing does not get picked up, and even if it gets picked up, by the time the enemy reacts, they would have shifted to the alternate site.
Right.
But this 3 aircrafts, I think there is more to it.
Sir, Tiny sir, what are you doing in Chandigarh? Come and join us here in the studio. So this is so beautifully explained. We would like to do this here in our war room. So you must.
Know, I thought the offer is to. I thought the offer was to go to Gulf and evacuate our diaspora.
No, so that we'll do. That is next step if things get to that level. But with Tom, it will be great to have you also with us in our studio to try and game this and also see what's going to be the next level in terms of the military tacticals, in terms of kinetic action from both ends. We'll try to understand what Iran is going to do and what, of course, the joint operations of Epic Fury are going to do. Dr. Ranganathan?
Yeah, on a lighter note...
Seldom do I forget to speak to you, but these days what happens with war is, and with so many Faujis, you tend to get ignored. It's not on purpose, Dr. Ranganathan. Please go ahead.
Absolutely not. It is my pleasure and honor to be part of this panel, and I'm here to absolutely learn as a layman. But on a lighter note, the only way you can get General Dino, off to the studio is to offer something more than 8 p.m., if you know what I mean. But
okay.
On a lighter note.
Okay.
But let me first address the issue, the so-called burning issue, quite asinine rather, that the opposition has brought up as to the silence of the Prime Minister. No condolences for the taking out of Khamenei. And whether he was a legitimate target. Let me pose a question, very simple question, and then I think the answer would be quite evident. Would Anand, a Pakistani leader who is commander-in-chief of his armed forces that are attacking India, who stocks nuclear arms and enriches uranium clandestinely, who calls India a cancer and vows that he will wipe India off the map, who trains and supports and funds multiple terror organizations on his soil, who then arms and sends terrorists to India to kill thousands of innocents. Would such a leader be a legitimate target for India? That's the question. And if the answer is yes, just replace Pakistan with Iran and India with Israel. So I don't know what this brouhaha is about. If at all the Shias of India are looking for a supreme leader, let it not be this terror apologist, in fact terror perpetrated Khamenei, but in fact al-Sistani, who is a legitimate leader of the Shias in Najaf in Iraq. So I think the Indian government should come out very quickly and kind of suppress this. I'm hearing a lot of disturbing reports about, a lot of videos going viral as to how Shias in India would want to go to Iran to fight this war against Israel. All this nonsense needs to be stopped. Iran was not a friend of India under Khamenei, as much as we would like to believe. In fact, Operation Sindoor, the only support we got was from two nations. One was Taiwan and the other one was Israel.
Right.
This Khamenei guy actually called India an oppressor state. So let's get these facts out of the way. Number two, I repeat what I said earlier. I think, to be honest, of course, there are experts on the panel, so they would, of course, know more than I do. But I think Donald Trump would be fuming today, because the reason why he got into this war was he wanted to end it as soon as possible. And the success that they got was on day one itself, which is they took out the supreme leader. He must have thought, look, it's going to be pretty clear from now on. Let's be short and swift. We don't want body bags. We don't want a Vietnam or Afghanistan-like situation. And unfortunately, it's going a bit pear-shaped today, what with the 15s being brought down and what looks like targets, US targets being attacked.
One should never have this one to underestimate the enemy. When you underestimate the enemy, you're making a fool of yourself. That's always the case. And the Iranians are no pushovers. This is a nation that has fought a 10-year-long war. This is a nation that has been able to, despite all the sanctions, be able to sell oil to the world and also make billions of dollars and fund the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis, and also Islamic Jihad, etc., and fund so many other entities while trying to push its ballistic missile programs leagues ahead of anybody else. You know, if you look at in the neighborhood, surrounded by enemies, they've still been able to do it with allies who have been from far away, be it China or Russia, if you, however you'd like to look at it. We've just got another update. Hegseth has not ruled out putting American boots on ground, viewers, in Iran. So now they're getting sucked in. Tom Cooper had a chuckle there. So let's start from that.
Good luck with that idea. Because, I mean, first they have to bring the troops to the Persian Gulf. Secondly, they have to build up supply stocks. That might take months. We have seen how long it took them to build up enough force for this operation. And as said, the chiefs of staff of the US Armed Forces have said what they have now, that was 2 weeks ago, is bar enough for 7 or 8 days of war. So now putting the boots on the ground, I said, good luck. Where do they want to put these troops? Who is going to risk Iranian retaliation if somebody, one of the Gulf states, permits these boots to be put on its ground?
So they have to get there to be able to put boots on the ground. And for that, they have to push the Iranians back. This whole criticism about the Prime Minister staying silent, India already taking sides while trying to look neutral. Do you agree, disagree with Dr. Ranganathan there? General Dhillon coming, sir.
I'm not in agreement with Mr. Ranganathan on that point. Prime Minister is making all the important calls. And the announcements will be done not on anyone else's timing. It will be on India's timing. Whenever we are comfortable with it, whenever we think that our national interests are being served, at that time the leader of the country will speak out.
Yes, General Dhillon.
Anand, the point which was being discussed by putting boots on ground. See, it's a very easy statement to make, putting boots on the ground in a hostile country. I'll just give you immediately what comes to my mind as to what all does it involve.
Yeah.
First of all, it involves securing an airhead. That means an airfield has to be secured on ground so that your aircrafts can land there. For that, some para-action has to be done. That is, the troops have to be airdropped. They will secure that aerodrome or airstrip. And then once the airstrip is secured, your aircraft will land with the heavy loads and other troops. And they will take the defenses around the airport and also put on the air defense assets. There afterwards, the infantry has to fan out, secure the area around up to about 5 to 8 kilometers so that close local counterattack cannot be launched. There afterwards, they have to secure some area where some hotels are there, some buildings are there where their troops will house, their communication centers will be housed, and their network will start operating from there. And then they have to fan out like an oil bubble in water to secure the ground around it. And in a country like Iran, I don't think that is possible. Putting boots on ground is a very, very difficult operation. Firstly, to secure a country of the size of Iran, I don't think Americans have those many pair of boots.
They don't have those kind of boots itself. Yeah, yes, Adrian.
Just for all the reasons explained, I would basically say it will just be useful to provide Iranian easy targets or more targets to inflict more human casualties to the Americans, and that's it.
No, and not just that. The Iranians know this art so well. They'll take some of these soldiers hostage. And then what happens to Trump, and what happens to the politics back home, and what happens to the constituency back home, where the US Congress anyway is upset that you've not even taken congressional approval before, unleashing this. Yeah, the US Congress.
The public is against this war.
Yeah, but this is why the Iranians are not so easy to beat. Just quickly taking our viewers through this, the kind of missiles that they have and how they can use them. They've just started. That's what they believe. Everybody estimates they have about 2,000 ballistic missiles, but the Ayatollah had actually, and as per the Israelis, had said that by 2027 you should have 8,000 so that we can strike Israel once and for all and wipe them out. Now look at what they already have. So I'm just going to move here. So the Shahab 1, 300 kilometers, Fateh 110, that's also 300 kilometer range, and the Shahab 2 and Fateh 313. So there are two missiles that they have in the 500 kilometer range. So from 300 kilometers upwards. So then you have the Quds one at 700 kilometers. Then there is the Zulfikar and the Qiyam one at 800 kilometers. Qadr 380, that goes up to 1,000 kilometers. And now come the long range ones which seem to have been pushed into play today. The Shahab 3, we'll just go back one page please if we can. The Shahab 3, the Khyber, and of course then you have the Sejal and the Somar crew. So just fire this again if we can, and then we'll try and see if we can see all of them. This is 1,300 kilometers and the Somar cruise missile at about 2,500 kilometers. In between this is the Khyber, which can go up to about 1,500 kilometers. That was used even today. And then you have the hypersonics that which start traveling and hardly give anybody any time. Now, Tom, if you can join me here. Oh, we don't have the this one pulled out today. We don't have the map pulled out. We'll get our team to try and see if we can pull out the map, and then we can ask, where is it? We'll get the team to come in and do it. But where is it? Where is it that Iran is going to fight its battle? How is it going to prolong this war? That's what I want to understand. And has the the American side gamed this possibility? Because they have two key arteries. One is their spread and Iran's lay of the land, and where all they have their installations, and these vulnerable UAE Gulf nations, not just UAE but the Gulf countries, plus the Strait of Hormuz. So how do you see Iran dragging this to make it far more inconvenient and expensive for the Americans? Tom, and then General Dhillon, then we'll alternate. Yeah.
I expect
and then
them
Ambassador
I said earlier, I expect them to go guerrilla mode, which means they are going to start hiding, disappearing. They're going to use the terrain, of which there are lots of mountains. Iran is foremost a mountainous country. To hide inside well-prepared shelters, underground facilities, which most of American weaponry cannot even reach.
But they have the B-52, the bunker busters. That's not enough.
Yes, but these bunker busters said they were developed a few years before the Iranians started constructing large-scale underground facilities, and then the Iranians constructed these facilities under the reach of such weaponry, of most of such weaponry. So
so they first said, okay, how far can this bust us?
Exactly, yes.
So let's go till then, and then go a little more, few many more meters below, and then start building our facilities.
Yeah. And they become extremely experienced in regards of constructing such facility, which is not easy, which is very complex.
Yeah.
So they are going to disappear, hide, and if nothing else, even if not using underground facilities, they can always use camouflage nets and similar items. So you have to keep in mind that the mass of Iranian missiles and UAVs is launched from commercial trucks, which means they are very easy to hide in civilian traffic. So whoever now wants to destroy every single of these launchers has to destroy
attack
every single civilian truck. From 3.5 tons trucks for the UAVs up to 13.6 commercial tilt trailers for bigger missiles. So they are easy to hide, actually.
They're easy to hide, but they also have a limited stock because these missiles can't be manufactured overnight.
Of course,
so
they cannot replenish this stock because most of the factories have meanwhile been hit. So this is their major problem. But they have sizable stocks, and I would say they have probably more ballistic missiles than the Americans and Israelis can defend from.
Right, General Dhillon, your thoughts? As I'm going to ask Tom to walk up with us here and let's try and game this if we can. Yes. Where do you think Iran is going to take this attack now? Yes, sir. Hanji.
Yeah, is it for me?
Yes, sir. Yes, General Dhillon.
Yeah. See, as so nicely explained by Tom, all these underground facilities are not only underground, they are at the base of the mountains. For the better understanding of our viewers who understand the geography of Afghanistan well, because Afghanistan has been in news for last so many years, northern Iran is extension of Afghanistan terrain towards the west. And all those Tora Bora caves and mountains and all is what the terrain looks like in the northern Iran.
This is northern Iran.
So northern Iran is all mountainous, and these tunnels are not underground. These tunnels are under the mountains.
Okay.
So the overhead protection which an underground tunnel has is about say 10 meters, 20 meters. It is a whole mountain on top of the tunnel. Only the entry of the tunnel can be hit, and it's like hitting a airstrip, which can be you can say opened up again in 8 to 10 hours.
Okay, so,
So
use
I've
a brighter
marked-
color so
I've
that
marked,
it's visible.
I've marked mountains, so main mountain ranges in Iran. This is just in the west and the south. So most of these are 1,500 meters high. Some are even 2,000 meters high. In between are deep valleys, some semi-deserts, and so on.
Can we spot it if we zoom in a little?
Of course.
If we open it up a little, and then we can show to our viewers how this terrain is. Like Isfahan. Isfahan has been, and Kermanshah, these areas have been targeted quite often. Najafabad, Isfahan is here, yeah.
Isfahan is a big desert in the middle of a semi-desert, actually. So perhaps not the best example. But if you go down here, there is ever more and more. I flew over Iraq, for example.
Okay.
When you look towards east, towards Iran, you see
this is
just
all-
dark
this all-
mountains.
This is all becomes mountainous.
This is all mountains up here.
Okay. So
Essentially,
yes.
it is so many mountains that there is major problem in regards of traffic connections between Tehran and the Khuzestan province, for example.
Kurdistan. So what is Iran going to do now? Yes, Dr. Ranganathan, please go ahead.
As a layman, if I were an Iranian dictator trying to hide my nuclear arsenal and other facilities, would I not try and make those facilities under a very densely populated city rather than a mountain?
Yes, they would. Yes, they would.
They would.
So that means they're constructing such facilities always inside mountains. You can see this in particular in Esfahan area, west of Esfahan,
Yeah, that's west of Isfahan. Yeah.
where the nuclear facilities are here in the mountains.
So what he's saying is, why under the mountains and why not under cities, like the
So
Hamas
why?
would do, under Gaza? So
In the case of Gaza, construction of underground facilities, so to say, modern expression, is well known, several thousand years into history. So this is because the soil is soft.
Soil is soft.
But here we have, it depends on what kind of soil we have. And it is simply better rock, so to say. I don't know enough about geology to explain it. But it is
no, what they've actually
ideal
done
for
is
underground
it's
facility.
also about strategy, and General Dhillon can weigh in on this. Adrian and Ambassador can also weigh in on it. From my understanding, is the fact that they are using the mountains because the top cover is hard rock. So nobody's going to be the wiser about how much is the capacity of building. You're not building a array of pipes and stockpiling weapons. You're building technology, and you're enriching uranium, or you're trying to build ballistic missile technology which you don't want anybody to see. And that's the reason why you keep it away from the people, so that one, you don't harm your own people, but it's secret, ultra secret. Nobody can see or spot. All you see is rock and and mountains. Perhaps that's the other counter strategy. But how is Iran going to? Yeah.
There are north of Tehran.
Okay.
There are huge underground facilities. This is kilometers long. Many are not even known, not even to the Americans, or they are known, but only their entrances and roads leading to them are known. So this is Tehran.
Yeah, this is Tehran.
So,
yeah.
more or less, all of these mountains here are full of underground facilities. And some of them are stretching for kilometers deep into the
Under
mountain.
the ground. So if the Hamas made their thing under the city of Gaza, the Iranians have done it under the mountains. So that's what they've done. They just use the same template, but they changed the terrain. But the fact is that this is all we're talking about, the western part of Iran, as I make it shorter. But we've not even looked at what their facilities are in central Iran. If we were to look at central Iran, the facilities that they have here, the Americans have still not targeted central Iran, and they may have installations and facilities there, Adrian?
Yes, absolutely so,
Yeah? And from here, what can they fire? What will they use, and where will they, to keep dragging this war, if I may say that?
From here, they are already firing heavier ballistic missiles at Israel. Those with range 2,000 kilometers. For example, Khorramshahr, which has 6 re-entry vehicles, which means 6 warheads.
Yeah. Khorramshahr, somewhere...
Khorramshahr is named after a city which is here in the south and which was destroyed during the Iraqi invasion of 1980.
1980. The Khorramabad, was this the... No, or further down here, you're saying?
It is down here, near the Persian...
Now, how are the Iranians entering Kuwait? Why... And how are they entering? How are they sending their UAVs into Israel?
UAVs is simple. You guide them. There are, I mean, the surface of the sea up here in the northern Persian Gulf appears empty. Actually, there are multiple offshore loading terminals and oil exploitation terminals and so on and so on. So you basically send your UAVs to fly from one such terminal after the other, because this is hiding them in the radar shadow of such terminals. So this is relatively easy. What is really interesting was this airstrike today by Iranian fighter jets. How did they manage that?